We are humbled and grateful to announce the release of our new audiobook today. About 6 months ago, while traveling on a plane and reading Gurbani, a realization came to me. If we could share the message of Guru Granth Sahib Ji in a simple and concise form, people everywhere could connect with the beautiful wisdom that unites humanity. This inspiration led me to begin compiling key messages from Gurbani that offer guidance on the rituals and practices we all observe. Upon my arrival, I shared this thought with Veer Pushpinder Singh Ji. With his support and collaboration, we began the journey of creating this book. The purpose of this book is to compare the rituals practiced in different traditions and present the profound guidance and answers found in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. It is our hope that these teachings will inspire readers to look beyond external rituals and rediscover the inner spiritual truth that binds us all as one family. Today, with great joy, we present this book in English. By Waheguru Ji's grace, editions in other world languages will be released soon. We humbly offer this work to the world with the prayer that it may serve as a source of understanding, unity, and spiritual growth. After listening, please share your feedback, good or bad. I will deeply appreciate it. Thank you. Manjit Singh Nerval. All is one. A brief note by the writer. I was born into a so-called Sikh family, but neither my family nor most other Sikh families truly understand what Gurbani all is about. For me, after many years of doing selfless service for the community, I began reading and understanding Gurbani. As I delved deeper, I realized how similar we all are, yet we remain divided by the barriers of so-called religions. Personally, I have let go of religious labels, but I deeply believe in the energy that created me, the same energy that brought me into existence from a single drop of my father's water. Today, science tells us that within that drop of water, millions of lives exist, yet I was the one who was given the chance to witness this beautiful world. It is that Creator who took care of me in my mother's womb, gave me my parents, my brothers, and my sisters, gave me my life partner, my friends, my colleagues, and my companions, gave me my beautiful children, gave me this earth so I could grow food for myself and my family, gave me air to breathe, gave me water to drink, gave me the source of food, for we humans cannot create air, water, or food on our own, gave me fire so I could cook and sustain myself, blessed me with a digestive system to process the nourishment provided, gave me a nose to breathe, eyes to see this beautiful world, and ears to hear my little grandson calling me Baba, Baba, gave me hands to care for myself and work for my family, gave me feet so I could travel the world and explore life's wonders. The Creator's gift to the world and humanity. The Creator's gifts are infinite, yet we often take them for granted. Beyond the blessings given to everyone, the Creator has provided everything that sustains life and keeps the world in balance. The sun, a constant source of light, warmth, and energy, sustaining all living beings. It rises without fail, nurturing life without discrimination. The moon and stars, illuminating the night sky, guiding travelers, and reminding us of the vastness of creation. The earth, a home for humanity, rich with rivers, mountains, forests, and lands that provide shelter, food, and resources. The seasons, a perfect cycle, spring to renew, summer to flourish, autumn to harvest, and winter to rest, ensuring the natural balance of life. The oceans and rivers, flowing tirelessly, providing water for all beings, shaping landscapes, and sustaining entire civilizations. The soil, a humble yet miraculous element, turning a tiny seed into a towering tree, giving rise to grains, fruits, and medicines that nourish and heal. The animals, each species playing its role in the ecosystem, from pollinating flowers to maintaining balance in nature's delicate web. The air, invisible yet essential, freely given to all without distinction of race, wealth, or status, reminding us that life itself is a shared gift. The human mind, the ability to think, learn, create, love, and seek truth, allowing us to explore the mysteries of the universe and understand our divine connection. Yet, despite being blessed with so much abundance, humanity continues to divide itself by race, by religion, by nationality, by social status. We argue over names of the divine, while forgetting the divine essence that unites us. The Creator never built borders, castes, or hierarchies. Humans did. The Creator never assigned one faith as superior to another. Humans did. The Creator never told us to own the earth, exploit it, or destroy it. Humans did. In reality, we are all one, born from the same divine energy, sharing the same earth, breathing the same air, and sustained by the same natural gifts. The true purpose of life is not to divide but to recognize this oneness, to live in harmony with one another, and to respect the Creator's gifts by caring for this world and all beings within it. That is my God. Maybe yours is different. Chapter 1. The Concept of God. Throughout history, people have tried to understand the forces that shape their lives. How do we think about God? Whether as a strict judge or a loving guide. This deeply affects how we see ourselves and others. Does your idea of God feel like a stern parent, watching for mistakes? Or more like a wise friend, helping you grow? This difference shapes everything, from how you handle failure to how you treat those with different beliefs. This chapter explores how our understanding of God has changed over time, from ideas based on fear to perspectives centered on wisdom, love, and personal growth. In ancient times, people had no protection against earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, lightning, and thunder. Imagine the fear our ancestors felt during violent storms, without any scientific understanding. Loud thunder overhead, lightning striking nearby trees, and no explanation for why it was happening. These frightening events seemed beyond human understanding, leading early communities to imagine powerful gods controlling these forces. This belief helped people feel less helpless when facing nature's unpredictable power. As different civilizations developed around the world, they created their own ideas about gods based on local experiences. For example, desert cultures emphasized water and fertility in their worship. Agricultural societies developed rituals around seasonal cycles. Coastal communities honored sea deities. These different environments explain why various religions emerged, each with unique gods, rituals, and rules for living. Over time, certain people claimed special abilities to communicate with the gods. These individuals, priests, mediators, said they could understand divine will, and offered prayers, sacrifices, and rituals to please these higher powers. This was the beginning of the clergy, or the religious leaders, who gained significant influence in society. Eventually, these leaders established religious rules that increased their own authority by teaching concepts of sin, virtue, and divine punishment. To maintain their influence, religious institutions taught people to fear what happens after death. They introduced ideas such as heaven and hell, places of reward or punishment, Jum, Doot, and Dharam, figures who are believed to judge souls after death in South Asian traditions. Reincarnation and doomsday, rebirth cycles, or final judgment. These beliefs encouraged people to follow religious rules out of fear, rather than genuine understanding. The idea that religious obedience determined your fate after death gave religious leaders enormous power over communities. Dharam refers to the divine being who judges souls after death, according to their actions in life, like the concept of a divine judge in many traditions. To please God and secure a better afterlife, people began performing various religious rituals. Many of these practices directly benefited religious institutions, as people were expected to donate money and valuables to temples, churches, gurdwaras, mosques, and other religious places. Perform specific ceremonies that often required paying clergy. Follow rules created by religious authorities. This turned spirituality into a transaction. I give something to get something, rather than a path to self-understanding and growth. As different religious groups formed, conflicts arose over whose God was real or superior. The very concept that was meant to bring peace instead caused division. Wars were fought, civilizations clashed, and millions suffered because of competing religious claims. Even today, conflicts continue because of rigid religious beliefs and misunderstandings about God. According to Gurbani, God is not a frightening being who controls nature or judges humanity harshly. Instead, God is the eternal truth that exists in all creation. Gurbani rejected fear-based ideas about God and instead teaches that the divine is a loving, ever-present source of wisdom and compassion. Gurbani describes God not as a punishing ruler, but as a kind and loving companion. The fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, beautifully expresses this idea as follows.
मिठ बोलड़ा जी, हर सज्जन स्वामी मोरा। हाओ सम्मल थक्की जी, ओ कदे ना बोले कौरा। कौड़ा बोल ना जाने, पूरन भगवाने, औगण को ना चितारे। पतित पावन, हर बिरद सदाए, इक तिल नहीं पनै काले। कट कट वासी, सरब निवासी, नेरे ही ते नेरा। नानक दास, सदा शरणागत, हर अमृत सज्जन मेरा।
This means that my master, my Lord, is a beloved friend who always speaks sweetly. I have searched endlessly, yet I have never heard a single harsh word from my Lord. That divine being, full of virtues, does not even know how to speak bitterly, nor does the divine keep a record of faults. Lord is the purifier of the impure. This has always been Lord's eternal nature. Lord never lets even the smallest sincere effort go to waste. My beloved resides within all, closer than the closest. O Nanak, Lord's servant forever seeks Lord's refuge, for my Lord is the true source of spiritual life. This clearly shows that according to Gurbani, God doesn't keep a record of sins to punish us after death. Instead, the divine gives wisdom to help us improve our thoughts and actions. Even our smallest effort toward goodness is valued. God is not someone who punishes, but someone who embraces us, guiding us towards self-understanding and personal growth. Gurbani uses many different names for the divine, with each name representing a specific quality. Though in English we commonly use the term God, Gurbani refers to the divine using names like
Ram, Hari, Allah, Vaguru, Akal, Gobind, Bithal, Prabh,
and many others. These names aren't just words to repeat, they represent qualities to develop in ourselves. When someone repeats these names in meditation, what matters isn't the sound itself, but the qualities these names represent. If someone chants
Hari,
meaning sustainer but remains cruel and selfish, their chanting is meaningless. Gurbani says,
हर हर करे, नित कपट कमावे, हिरदा शुद्ध ना होई।
This means, one may repeatedly chant
Hari, 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 Hari.
But if one engages in deceit, the heart remains impure. True remembrance, Simran, means developing divine qualities in yourself: truth, compassion, justice, humility, and selfless love. How we think about God strongly influences our spiritual journey and personal development. Gurbani states,
ए मन, जैसा सेवै, तैसा होवै, तेहे करम कमाए.
This means that as the mind envisions, so it becomes; as one believes, so one acts. If you imagine God as a harsh judge, you'll likely become judgmental and fearful yourself. If you see God as vengeful, you might become vengeful toward others. However, if you think of God as compassionate, loving, and wise, you'll begin to develop these same qualities within yourself. This simple principle shows how our spiritual beliefs shape our character and actions. Gurbani encourages spiritual seekers to develop divine qualities, as it says,
हर जन ऐसा चाहिए जैसा हर ही होए.
A devotee of God should strive to become like the divine itself. A true seeker doesn't just worship God but becomes a reflection of divine qualities: kindness, truth, patience, and wisdom. There should be no difference between the divine qualities and the person who sincerely tries to develop them. This is the journey of connecting with God not through external rituals, but through inner transformation. The divine presence within us isn't limited by gender, as it has no physical form. The guiding force leading us toward right action is shaped by our own awareness. Just as natural laws govern the physical world, principles of truth and virtue guide our inner growth. As we listen, read, and reflect on the concept of God, we inevitably form our own understanding. But beyond names, rituals, and fear, the essence of the divine is a guide toward personal and collective betterment. The concept of God invites us to live with truth, compassion, humility, and wisdom, qualities that not only elevate the individual but heal and uplift society. Rather than fearing God, we are called to love virtue, and to live so virtuously that our lives reflect the divine itself. In this way, the idea of God becomes not a distant power to be appeased but an inner light to be realized, a presence that transforms us from within. Chapter 2. God is one. We often listen or read this phrase that the God is one. The same God exists everywhere, and God is omnipresent and omnipotent. It is evident that whichever religion one follows, one tends to consider it most authentic because of the association with it. With this close connection, people often say that their religious scriptures are direct revelation from Allah, God, Rab, or whatever divine name they consider pious according to their respective religion. With due respect to all the religions and all the holy scriptures, let us take a quick glance to understand how different these words are from each other. Before we begin exploring the viewpoints of different religions, it is humbly stated that the comparisons we are about to make are not intended to degrade or elevate any particular faith. The purpose of this effort is to touch hearts, to spark reflection, and to bring people together in the understanding that the divine transcends all religious rituals, practices, and belief systems. The divine, commonly referred as God, is not a person who could say anything in outer voice, and which can be listened through outer ears of body. Rather, God is inner voice, that could uplift one morally, teaches godliness, morality to live a life full of virtues, introspect, gives the perspective to see divine in fellows around us, that never inspires to do any negative or ill behavior with anybody. The divine is present in every human being on this earth, not in just few, or not in just one, or not in any particular religion. With this we must say that every human is the child of one divine, shared, common, creator, one God. If we consider that God is one, then how can the same God say one thing in one religion, and the exact opposite in another? This raises an important question. Do we have different gods for different parts of the world? Or have we simply defined God differently, based on our perception, convenience, geography, and cultural influence? Most religions agree on one thing: God is one. And yet, each claims that its scriptures are direct revelations from God. But how can these revelations contradict each other, if the source is truly the same? Let us reflect on few examples. Wine and alcohol. In Christianity, it is believed that Jesus performed his first miracle by turning water into wine. Wine is considered sacred, offered during baptism, and seen as a blessing from God. In Judaism, on Friday evenings, Jewish families drink wine as part of their tradition to sanctify the Sabbath. But in Islam and Sikhi, wine is strictly prohibited. Those who consume it are considered sinful. How can God's guidance be so different if God is one? Circumcision. In Islam and Judaism, circumcision is a sacred act. It symbolizes purity, obedience, and a covenant with God. A circumcised person is seen as a full member of the religious community. However, in Hinduism and Sikhi, circumcision is not practiced at all. This difference again points to different religious revelations, not a single divine command. Diet and food ethics. Dietary rules vary greatly among religions. Christians, Jews, and Muslims are allowed to eat meat, as long as it is prepared according to their traditions, such as halal or kosher. But Jainism completely opposes eating meat. It teaches ahimsa, non-violence, as the highest virtue. Even harming insects is discouraged. Clearly, dietary ethics are not universally revealed by one creator. Hair and identity. In Sikhi, keeping unshorn hair is a strict religious requirement, seen as an expression of devotion. Other religions have no such rule. Marriage, adultery, and polygamy. Adultery is generally condemned in most major religions, but approaches to divorce and remarriage differ. Some religions allow divorce and remarriage. Others discourage remarriage, at least while the first spouse is alive. Polygamy, that means the practice or custom of having more than one wife or husband at the same time. Islam allows more than one wife. So did ancient Judaism and Hinduism, especially among kings. Today, most modern belief systems lean toward monogamy, regardless of religious background. These examples show how religious beliefs differ, even though many claim to be divinely revealed. If all these commandments came from the same God, then why do they differ so drastically, and sometimes even contradict each other? This leads us to a deeper realization. Either we have interpreted God differently in each culture, or we have shaped the message of God to fit our own social, political, and cultural needs over time. Chapter 3. Godliness over God. In the previous chapter, we have explored how the concept of God has evolved over time and compared rituals that are often claimed to be direct revelations from the Supreme Divine. In doing so, we find inconsistencies that suggest these rituals may not be universal truths, handed down by a singular Supreme Being. Rather than focusing on the image of an external God, it is more meaningful to focus on the morality and virtues that reflect godliness. The message of Gurbani consistently urges individuals to develop and embody divine qualities, transforming themselves into reflections of those virtues. Simply stating that there is one God does not convey the deeper essence of spirituality. The phrase "God is one" points toward oneness with godliness, not just belief in a single entity. Ironically, this so-called unknown God is surrounded by countless known stories, symbols, and philosophies. Over time, these stories take on a mythological shape and begin to feel irrational or inconsistent with reason. Yet, because many aspects of existence remain unexplained, the unknown is often labeled as the will of God. Even so, not all mythological or ritualistic practices have a negative influence. Many have contributed positively to the social fabric of humanity by promoting discipline, community, and compassion. For example, abstaining from alcohol is encouraged or mandated by many faiths. This practice has measurable benefits. It reduces the occurrence of liver disease, minimizes alcohol-related accidents, and lowers instances of domestic violence and mental health issues. It strengthens families and encourages personal responsibility. Similarly, sexual discipline, avoiding multiple physical relationships, has helped reduce the spread of sexually transmitted diseases like HIV/AIDS. This has protected people from emotional trauma and upheld family stability. These principles have promoted healthier relationships and stronger social bonds. Marriage and divorce are areas where religious teachings have had a significant influence. Although divorce itself is not a ritual, many traditions include rituals and moral teachings that encourage couples to resolve conflicts, particularly for the sake of their children. In some cases, individuals choose to remain together solely for religious reasons and to preserve family unity, which in turn has helped strengthen community values and resilience. One of the most profound rituals that has made a lasting social impact is the langar, the free community kitchen. Serving meals to all, regardless of caste, creed, or background, this practice promotes equality, breaks down social divisions, and fosters shared humanity. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the concept of oxygen langar emerged, where communities came forward to provide free oxygen cylinders and medical aid. These acts of selfless service, seva, show how a ritual, when rooted in compassion, becomes a force for humanitarian action. Communities that practice seva regularly are often among the first to respond to natural disasters or societal crises. Other values rooted in spiritual traditions continue to support human dignity. Truthfulness, choosing not to lie or take undue advantage of others, builds trust and integrity. Non-violence, ahimsa, a core value in many traditions, teaches respect for all living beings and reduces cruelty, encouraging peaceful coexistence. Charity, offering a fixed portion of income to the poor, helps reduce inequality, strengthens social responsibility, and ensures that the needs of the less fortunate are addressed. Daily prayer and spiritual reflection improve mental health, reduce stress, and foster empathy and discipline. Even ritual greetings, such as folding hands or bowing, are gestures that reduce ego and promote humility and mutual respect. These values, among others, offer humanity a way to live with dignity, empathy, and purpose. They guide not just personal development but also collective well-being. The divine, the natural world, and the moral laws of life are not the domain of any one person, sect, or nation. The concept of God, when truly understood, is universal. It belongs to no single race, religion, or country. It is in the shared values that promote peace, harmony, and unity. Values that remind us that the essence of God is not in stories or statues, but in the godliness within all of us. Chapter 4. Qualities of God. Having discussed the concept of God, let us now explore the essential qualities of the divine, as described in the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. These foundational attributes are not tied to any one name or religion. Whether one says God, Master, Ram, Allah, or Wahe Guru, these virtues define the moral essence that resides within all. The opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib Ji goes like this.
Ik Onkar, Satnam, Karta Purkh, Nirpau, Nirvair, Akal Moorat, Ajuni, Saibang, Gur Prasad.
Now, let us try to understand each of these virtues, one by one.
Ik Onkar.
One universal creator. Uttering the sentence God is one is simple and easy. Many say it. But becoming a being of oneness, experiencing and enjoying union with the divine, is the highest spiritual realization. It is an epiphany of spirituality, a profound insight into the true nature of the self. This realization doesn't come from ritual or repetition, but from living without hypocrisy, aligning every thought, word, and action with the inner divine. In daily life, we often feel a conflict between our inner wisdom and the pull of worldly desires. While many claim to believe in oneness, they continue to live in division, judging others, acting with ego, and contradicting the very unity they profess. Oneness is not just a slogan, it's a path to becoming a divine being. The realization of Ikonkar occurs when we surrender to the higher self and act in harmony with divine principles. When compassion, fairness, and truth become our way of life, we bridge the gap between merely believing in God and becoming the presence of divine love in the world. To live in oneness means letting go of all forms of hypocrisy, especially the urge to appear spiritual or superior. True oneness comes from authentic humility, not from outward show. It is to recognize the divine not just in prayer, but in every moment, every interaction, and every breath. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Satnam,
living the eternal truth. This divine virtue represents eternal, unchanging truth. It is more than just a divine name. It is a way of living that anchors one firmly to the divine and keeps one from being tempted by undivine actions. Names like
Ram, Allah, Hari.
each reflect different aspects of the divine.
Ram,
This virtue signifies that the divine dwells within every human being.
Allah,
This virtuous name points to the one and only Supreme Being, present in all as divine wisdom.
Hari.
This virtue represents the inner divine protector who shields us from vices and negative thoughts.
Satnam,
This godly quality calls us to align with the essence of all these divine virtues, not only in thought but also in action and service. While nature follows divine order instinctively, humans often act from ego and self-interest. True remembrance, Naam Simran, is not about mechanical repetition. It is about living righteously, selflessly, and with awareness. In a world shaped by illusion and false identities, Satnam invites us to live with authenticity and unwavering integrity. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Karta Purkh,
the creative divine in action. This divine virtue signifies that the Creator is actively present in all of creation. The divine is not distant or separate, but exists within every breath, every moment, and every being. This creative presence expresses itself through acts of love and service, a doctor healing without bias, a teacher nurturing young minds, a volunteer feeding strangers. Each becomes a living reflection of divine creativity. A true seeker uses this creative energy not for rituals or personal gain, but to reject hollow practices and act with justice, compassion, and sincerity. True devotion is shown through the upliftment of others, extending a helping hand without expectation of reward and seeing all beings as equal. When one channels creative thought into purposeful action, they align with the Creator and serve humanity with love and humility. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Nirpau,
fearlessness through divine wisdom. The divine calls us to live without fear. Yet, fear continues to dominate much of human life. In search of comfort and control, people often turn to rituals, superstitions, or self-proclaimed spiritual guides. But only divine wisdom has the power to dispel fear from the heart. Fear is not a physical entity, it is a mental state. Still, many seek external solutions for an internal condition and unknowingly derail themselves from the path of true spirituality. Fear often gives rise to attachment, greed, and ego, creating deeper entanglements. Gurbani beautifully conveys this truth.
Nanak, vin nave nirpau ko nai, jichar sabad na kare vichar.
Nanak, without the divine virtues, none become fearless. Until one contemplates on the divine message from within, fear remains. In today's society, much of religion has become fear-based, filled with threats of punishment, hell, or divine wrath. These fear-driven narratives enslave the mind. Actions born from fear lack sincerity and virtue. True fearlessness arises not from denial of life's challenges but through alignment with truth, wisdom, and selfless living. When we are overly self-centered, our concern narrows to just our body, our family, our possessions, our beliefs, and our achievements. We become fearful of losing what we have: health, wealth, relationships, or status. We fear illness, accidents, early death, or failing to provide for our children. Some of these fears serve a practical purpose. They prompt us to care for our responsibilities. But the remedy lies not in obsession, but in engaging in meaningful action, using our creative potential to uplift others and serve humanity. This is how fear is transformed. Fearlessness is not recklessness. It is clarity. It is the strength that comes from inner alignment with the divine. In a world full of anxiety, comparison, and pressure, the divine virtue of fearlessness offers the courage to walk with peace, purpose, and unwavering trust. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Nerval,
living without enmity. The divine holds no grudges, no enmity, not against sinners, non-believers, or anyone. Like sunlight or air, the divine presence touches all equally, without judgment or discrimination. Divine justice is not about punishment, but the natural consequence of one's actions. As Gurbani states,
आपे बीज, आपे ही खाओ.
you reap what you sow. Each of us belongs to some community or group, and history bears witness to countless conflicts between such groups. In today's era of instant information, news and social media play a powerful role in shaping perception. This often leads to polarization, where people are pushed, willingly or unwillingly, into supporting one group while opposing another. Social media, driven by the race for views and engagement, frequently promotes sensationalism and divisiveness. Posts, videos, and reels are designed to provoke emotional reactions, often leading people away from inner reflection and towards enmity and conflict. Political forces also exploit these divisions to maintain control over groups by keeping them fragmented and reactive. But Gurbani rises above all worldly noise and reminds us of the true spiritual ideal.
ना को बैरी नहीं बिगाना, सगल संग हम कौ बनाई.
No one is my enemy, no one a stranger. I am at peace with all. Media may continue to echo hatred, jealousy, and division, but the choice remains ours. It is a matter of inner will, of turning inward and aligning with the voice of the divine, which calls us to rise above all divisions and live with unity and compassion. True strength lies in forgiveness. In a world marked by polarization and blame, the divine virtue of living without enmity is more essential than ever. It invites us to let go, to make peace, and to connect with others through love, not fear. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Akal Murat,
Akal Murat, the Timeless One. In nature, death is inevitable. Over time, everything perishes: humans, animals, vegetation, even mountains and rivers. Yet the divine is Akal Murat, eternal and beyond the reach of time. The divine does not decay, diminish, or die. Divine virtues like truth, love, compassion, and justice are timeless. They remain unchanged. To adopt the virtue of the Timeless One is to anchor oneself in values that never fade. When one does not root their life in godly virtues, a kind of spiritual death occurs, even while physically alive. But one can transcend this inner decay through divine wisdom and remembrance. Gurbani says,
हृदय साच वसै, हर नाय, काल न जो सकै गुण गाए.
when the truth dwells in the heart through the divine name, even death cannot touch the one who sings the virtues. Akal Murat calls us to live from an eternal center, so that even in a world of constant change, our soul remains steady, luminous, and rooted in higher truth. To remain anchored in the Timeless One is to stay firm in values and godly character, regardless of shifting outer political or economic situations. To live in alignment with timeless virtues is to become a being of godliness, unwavering in truth and untouched by the waves of worldly change. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Ajuni.
Ajuni means beyond birth and death. The divine is beyond all cycles of birth and death. Unlike the limited view in some faiths that imagine the divine in physical or human form, Gurbani clarifies.
Na tis maran na avan jaan.
This means that the divine does not come or go. The divine does not die. The divine has no parents, no attachments, and no reincarnation. But Gurbani takes this truth even further, beyond physical birth and death, into the inner world of the mind and soul. Rebirth, in a spiritual sense, also refers to repeated cycles of ego, desire, and suffering.
Man mukh garab joni, nit paunda jiyu.
The self-centered fall into the womb of rebirth at every moment. Each time we choose ego over awareness, desire over contentment, or illusion over truth, we are reborn into suffering. Liberation comes through divine wisdom, through deep understanding and detachment from illusion.
Booj bairag kare je koi. Janam maran fir sog na hoi.
If one truly understands and cultivates detachment, the cycle of birth and death no longer causes sorrow. To live ajuni, beyond birth, is to free oneself from mental restlessness, to die to the ego, and to be reborn in peace, wisdom, and stillness. It is not an escape from the world, but a transformation within it, a life no longer driven by impulse, but centered in divine awareness. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Saibang.
This virtue means that the divine is self-existent, existing independently, without origin or support in all human beings. The divine is not established, created, or sustained by anyone. It simply is, eternal, radiant, and complete in itself. Humans are born physically, but true life begins only with spiritual awakening. Without this awakening, Gurbani describes people as spiritually lifeless.
Jo bin satgur seve, khande pende, se mue mar jamme kode.
Those who eat and drink without serving the true Guru are as if dead, even though they appear born. To be
Saibang
is to be self-illumined, to cultivate a self-sustaining light rooted in divine virtues. It is a state free from ego, pride, and the need for validation or praise. To escape the endless cycle of ego, desires, and attachment to one's own limited perceptions, one must engage in deep introspection. This inward inspection purifies the self, lifting one from vices and harmful patterns, and gradually leads to inner alignment with the divine. Through self-awareness, humility, and service, one begins to reflect the qualities of Saibhang. Living not from dependency, but from divine clarity and strength within. The next divine virtue from the opening verse of Guru Granth Sahib is
Gur Prasad.
By the grace of the Guru. The final phrase, Gur Prasad, reveals a profound truth. Divine realization is not earned through effort alone. It is a gift. It is grace.
Gur Prasad mitya andyara, kat chanan aap pachananya.
Through the Guru's grace, darkness is dispelled, and the inner light is revealed. Here, Guru does not refer to a specific person. It is the divine wisdom that guides and illuminates the soul.
Prasad.
This refers to the unconditional and continuous outpouring of this wisdom, freely given, like rain that falls on all. The grace is always present, but we must open our hearts to receive it. One who lives in Gur Prasad becomes humble, wise, and generous, shedding ego and embracing divine wisdom. They no longer act from pride or possessiveness, but from a spirit of sharing, compassion, and selfless service. In a world obsessed with individual achievement and status, this path reminds us: the highest wisdom is never hoarded, it is shared. The brightest souls do not rise alone, they lift others with them. The opening verse of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji is more than theology, it is a spiritual blueprint. Each divine attribute revealed is not a distant ideal, but a living possibility within us. As we contemplate these qualities, truth, fearlessness, love, and begin to embody them, we move from mere belief to inner realization. We shift from knowing about the divine to becoming a reflection of the divine. Chapter 5. Dharam. The word Dharam, or Dharma, is commonly associated with various religions. We often hear expressions like Hindu Dharam, Sikh Dharam, Jain Dharam, Buddha Dharam, Islam Dharam, and Christian Dharam. This widespread usage gives the impression that there are many different Dharamas, each belonging to a particular religion. In reality, Dharma is not plural, it is one universal principle, not a religious label, but an inner state of righteous living rooted in divine virtues. Dharma, the child of mercy. True Dharma begins when the mind is touched by wisdom. The human mind only adopts what it finds meaningful. If there is no inner resonance, even the noblest teachings are ignored or rejected. But when the wisdom penetrates the heart, it sets off a process of deep transformation. The mind begins to shed its vices and embrace divine qualities. That awakening is the birth of Dharam within. Dharma is not limited by time, religion, or sect. It is ever prevalent, Gurbani says.
Aad sach, jugad sach, hai bhi sach, nanak hosi bhi sach.
Means, one who is attuned to Dharam, the path of truth, merges with the eternal, the unchanging reality. Such Dharam is not confined to rituals or identities, but is a timeless, divine principle that lives through inner transformation and righteous living. So Dharam isn't defined by rituals, traditions, or rules. It is an evolving inner journey, a process of becoming. It is about learning from wisdom, guru, adopting divine virtues, and manifesting them in one's daily conduct. Without inner connection, even the holiest scriptures remain lifeless or misunderstood. According to Gurbani, true Dharam transcends ritual. It shines through pure actions rooted in truth and humility.
Sarab taram मैं श्रेष्ठ तरम, har ko naam jap nirmal karam.
This means, among all religions, the highest is to remember God's virtue and perform pure deeds. Dharam is also described metaphorically in Japji Sahib.
Tol taram daya ka poot, santok thap rakhya jin soot.
This poetic imagery reveals a profound truth. Compassion is the seed from which Dharam grows. Without compassion, righteousness cannot take root. When one honestly reflects on their inner sufferings, weaknesses, and wrongdoings, and wishes to transform, that sincere desire to purify oneself is compassion directed inward. It marks the first step toward living in harmony with divine law, known as Dharma. The knowledge. Gyan, or knowledge, is infinite. Across cultures and time, libraries are filled with sacred scriptures and philosophical works offering wisdom on every subject imaginable. But among all these fields of knowledge, one is often neglected: the knowledge of the self. This knowledge of self is referred as Gyan in Gurbani. Most people either ignore their flaws or avoid facing them. Yet, real transformation only begins when one turns inward, when one observes own thoughts, behaviors, and intentions with honesty. The moment one sincerely recognizes their weaknesses, a natural compassion emerges, not as self-pity, but as a deep longing to grow, to heal, and to live more truthfully. That spark of self-awareness is the beginning of Dharam. As Gurbani says,
कबीरा, जहाँ ज्ञान तत्तरम है.
Where there is wisdom, there is Dharam. The sin. Often, the mind thinks one thing, but to gain social approval, a person behaves differently. Outwardly, they seem virtuous, but inwardly, they may be driven by pride, fear, or desire for praise. This gap between inner truth and outer appearance is deception. It is not Dharam, but hypocrisy. Gurbani warns against this duality.
काप पर पहरे पोगे पोग, आचार करे सोबा में लोग.
Wearing the outer garments of righteousness and indulging in worldly pleasures, they pretend virtue to gain admiration. Such conduct does not arise from truth or virtue, but from ego and illusion. It is superficial and short-lived. Kabir Sahib says,
जहाँ चूत तय पाप.
Where there is falsehood, there is sin. Dharam cannot exist in a heart filled with falsehood. Instead, its opposite, sin takes root. The death. Greed, known as Lobe in Gurbani, is among the greatest hindrances to walking the path of Dharam. To fulfill one's greed, a person may compromise ethics, deceive others, or inflict harm. In doing so, the inner light of wisdom is extinguished. This moral decay is likened to spiritual death. Kabir Sahib says,
जहाँ लोभ ता काल है.
Where there is greed, there is death. Greed breaks the connection to virtue and blocks the heart from experiencing contentment, humility, and love. Where greed prevails, Dharam cannot survive. The presence. Forgiveness, or in Punjabi, Khema, is one of the highest expressions of moral and spiritual maturity. It is not merely the act of forgiving others, it also includes the humility to seek forgiveness for one's own mistakes, whether committed knowingly or unknowingly. This inward act of acknowledging one's flaws softens the ego and purifies the heart. When one seeks forgiveness with sincerity, it leads to humility, self-cleansing, and inner freedom. Forgiving others is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness. In truth, it requires immense inner strength, awareness, and divine character. It reflects an ego-free heart, a heart that is not bound by anger, pride, or revenge, but is open to love, peace, and understanding. As Bhagat Kabir says,
जहाँ खिमा ता आप.
Where there is forgiveness, there is the presence of the divine. Forgiveness invites the presence of the divine into one's life. It has the power to heal relationships, dissolve resentment, and bring clarity to the soul. It is the foundation of spiritual growth and the soil in which Dharam takes root. Without forgiveness, true compassion cannot fully blossom. In both giving and seeking forgiveness, one becomes aligned with the divine. Forgiveness is not just an act, it is a sacred state of being. Having explored the inner dimensions of Dharam, rooted in knowledge, truth, humility, and forgiveness, it becomes evident how far modern society has drifted from these core virtues. Despite the universal principles Dharam embodies, religion is often misused as a tool for division rather than unity. Driven by comparison, people often measure their religion against others, seeking to prove superiority. A common yardstick is the number of followers, mistakenly equating popularity with truth. This obsession fuels conversions, both voluntary and forced, that persist to this day. These divisions, long entrenched in human history, are now amplified by modern tools: propaganda, media manipulation, economic domination, and political control. News outlets, television, and social media, driven by greed for fame and profit, sensationalize conflict, deepening societal divides. The more they stoke fear and hatred, the more viewership and wealth they accumulate, further darkening the lines of separation. Such distortion aligns with the core truth of Dharam: where there is greed, the divine is absent. In pursuit of profit, people create inflammatory content, mocking others' beliefs, ridiculing rituals, or pulling others down. These actions only widen the gap between communities, fueling misunderstanding and hostility. Even the most intellectual individuals can fall prey to these divisive currents, taking sides, defending their own group, and deepening the very divides they oppose. The emotional pull of sensational content often overrides reason, entrapping even those who strive for objectivity. Against these external influences stands Dharam, a conscious return to divine wisdom. This vision, known as Brahm Gyan, divine wisdom, cleanses the mind and restores clarity, allowing one to see all with warmth, friendliness, and impartiality. Gurbani illustrates this beautifully.
ब्रह्म ज्ञानी के दृष्ट समान, जैसे राज रंग कौ लागे तुलपवान.
The gaze of the Brahm Gyan is equal, like the wind that blows equally upon king and beggar. Political parties worldwide exploit these divides for vote banks. Their strategies revolve around portraying themselves as flawless while discrediting the opposition, often relying on falsehoods and manipulation. This greedy endeavor prevents harmony from taking root. No religion is inherently good or bad. Virtue and vice exist within individuals, not labels. Hatred is not taught by any true faith. It is an infection spread through corrupted influences. Returning to Dharam means cleansing oneself of this infection and realigning with love, unity, and divine virtues. Bhagat Kabir distills this essence.
कबीरा, जहाँ ज्ञान त धर्म है, जहाँ झूठ त पाप. जहाँ लोभ त काल है, जहाँ क्षमा त आप.
Where there is wisdom, there is Dharam. Where there is falsehood, there is sin. Where there is greed, there is death. Where there is forgiveness, there is the divine. Dharam is not a label. It is a living reality shaped by our thoughts, intentions, and actions. To walk this path is to choose truth over lies, contentment over greed, and forgiveness over ego. Where these virtues dwell, the divine itself is present. Ultimately, Dharam is not about religious identity, rituals, or external symbols. It is about embodying divine virtues, truth, humility, compassion, contentment, forgiveness, and integrity. Regardless of one's religion, caste, nationality, or language, whoever adopts these virtues is dharmic. Those who reject them, even while wearing religious symbols, remain distant from true Dharam. The distortion of Dharam, when truth is replaced by falsehood, greed replaces contentment, and forgiveness is forgotten, has mirrored itself in the outer structures of religion. Instead of fostering spiritual growth, many religious institutions over time have accumulated wealth, land, and political influence, shifting their focus from uplifting the soul to expanding material power. Spirituality became commercialized, darshan, beholding or experiencing the presence of a holy person, deity, sacred site, offered through VIP tickets, paid rituals promising blessings, and sacred sites transformed into centers of religious tourism. In some cases, religious leaders exploited faith for personal gain, nurturing blind followers instead of encouraging self-awareness, spiritually conscious individuals. Yet, true Dharam teaches simplicity, humility, and savor, selfless service, not luxury, control, or exploitation. Spirituality is meant to transform the heart, not accumulate external power. This institutional drift has corrupted faith not only at an individual level but also at societal and global levels, fueling conflicts across communities and nations. Though most religions preach peace and compassion, history bears witness to over 1,700 recorded wars fought in the name of religion, accounting for nearly 8% of all documented conflicts. From the Crusades and Jihads to forced conversions and communal riots, the sacred names of the divine have often been misused to mask political ambitions and power struggles. Rulers and institutions have long exploited religious sentiment to control the masses, manipulate emotions, and silence dissent. Religion, touching the deepest emotional core of individuals, becomes either a force for unity or division, a sacred path in the right hands, but a dangerous weapon in the wrong ones. This outer corruption reflects the inner distortion of Dharam we explored earlier. Where greed thrives, the divine is absent. Where falsehood and pride reign, Dharam dies. Hatred, like an infection, is contracted from corrupted influences, not sacred teachings. The way back is through cleansing this infection, returning to the pure source within, where the message is always one of love, equality, and unity. Self-awareness, truth, and forgiveness are the only path, not just in personal life but in how religion is practiced and shared in society. At its heart, Dharam recognizes the oneness of all existence, considering all human beings as children of one Creator Lord. This vision of unity, expressed simply as all is one, transcends divisions of caste, religion, nationality, or language. When this understanding blossoms within, it dissolves boundaries and nurtures compassion, equality, and respect for all. Chapter 6. The Divine Principle of Justice. Every human being is naturally equipped with an inner mechanism that evaluates thoughts and emotions. Negative thoughts, such as fear, anger, jealousy, doubt, or sadness, often trigger emotional turbulence. Positive thoughts, on the other hand, generate feelings of joy, hope, gratitude, confidence, and peace. Our mind reacts quickly to certain situations. Simple responses take just milliseconds, as we are often conditioned to act on impulse. These instant reactions are shaped by memory and past experiences. More complex thoughts, however, require deeper processing before turning into action. Whether quick or slow, every decision we make is guided by internal criteria, filters shaped by our values, beliefs, fears, and desires. These decision-making parameters play a vital role in shaping our behavior. When our actions are driven by fear, greed, selfishness, or a survival mentality, they lead to destructive consequences. Such behavior, rooted in ego or scarcity, aligns with the path of death or destruction, symbolically referred to in spiritual terms as Yam, that is, the messenger of death. On the other hand, when decisions arise from joy, peace, gratitude, or compassion, they guide us toward constructive moral action. These choices uplift the spirit and are considered part of the cycle of life and growth, referred to as saint, the flourishing of inner morality. This entire decision-making process often happens quietly and invisibly, sometimes even without our awareness. In Gurbani, this hidden mechanism is referred to as
Gupat,
meaning secret or unseen. Every thought, whether acted upon or not, leaves a subtle imprint on the mind. This imprint is called
Chittar,
meaning an inner image or mental record. Together,
Chittar,
and
Gupat,
form the concept of
Chittar Gupat,
the invisible recorder of our inner world. It is not a mythical figure keeping our karma in a physical book, but rather a spiritual metaphor for how our mind tracks every emotion, intention, and action. Each experience, each decision, becomes part of our inner account, be it loving or hateful, fearful or grateful, wise or ignorant. Regardless of one's belief system, religious, spiritual, atheist, or otherwise, this internal record-keeping continues as long as the mind is conscious and memory is active. The book of life is being written not outside us, but within us, moment by moment. Judgment. Not only are all our actions and thoughts recorded, but fair judgment is also continuously taking place, moment by moment. Every positive or negative thought, every right or wrong action, is observed and weighed. This role of judgment is not external but deeply internal. Dharam, the divine principle of justice, is the ever-watchful, unbiased judge within. It silently inspects the transactions of our mind and behavior, offering righteous guidance and direction. However, when the mind is influenced by impure or negative thoughts, it tends to ignore this inner voice. Instead of aligning with truth, it leans towards selfish desires and harmful actions. Ignoring the guidance of Dharam is like turning one's back on virtue, defaming the saintly path, and choosing not to surrender to righteousness. When the mind surrenders to Dharam and acts in harmony with its guidance, it is said that one has entered the path of the saint, drawing nearer to truth. But when one ignores it, they drift further away. Gurbani beautifully expresses this reality.
ਚੰਗਿਆਈਆਂ ਬੁਰਿਆਈਆਂ ਵਾਚੈ ਧਰਮ ਹਦੂਰ ਕਰਮੀ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਕੇ ਦੂਰ.
Good and bad deeds are evaluated in the presence of Dharam. According to one's actions, one is drawn nearer or pushed farther away. Thus, Dharam is not a distant judge, it is the guiding light within, always present, always fair, offering us a chance to return to truth at every moment. Gurbani explains this inner journey as
ਜਿਸਕੇ ਘਰ ਦੀਬਾਨ ਹਰ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਿਸਕੀ ਮੁਠੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਗਤ ਸਭ ਆਇਆ.
This means that when the inner heart comes under the guidance of Dharam, the divine principle of righteousness, all the senses begin to align naturally with virtue. It's as if the entire inner world starts flowing in harmony, guided by truth and justice.
ਤਿਸ ਕਉ ਤਲਕੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਨਾਈ ਹਰ ਦੀਬਾਨ ਸਭ ਭਾਣ ਪੈਰੀ ਪਾਇਆ.
In this state, one is no longer ruled by the senses, because each sense begins to follow the lead of Dharam, walking in the footsteps of righteousness.
ਮਾਨਸਾ ਕੇਹੋ ਦੀਬਾਣੋ ਕੋਈ ਨਸ ਭਜ ਨਿਕਲੇ ਹਰ ਦੀਬਾਣੋ ਕੋਈ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਜਾਇਆ.
In the external world, we have created systems of law and judiciary, where judges make decisions based on evidence and legal texts. A person accused of wrongdoing may try to escape judgment, perhaps through legal loopholes, bail, or a persuasive lawyer. But the inner court, the divine mechanism that silently evaluates our thoughts and emotions, is flawless. It cannot be misled. Here, no guarantees or bribes can save us, only sincerity, surrender, and truth matter.
ਸੋ ਐਸਾ ਹਰ ਦੀਬਾਨ ਵਸਿਆ ਭਗਤਾਂ ਕੈ ਹਿਰਦੈ ਤਿਨ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਖੋਂਦੇ ਆਣ ਸਭ ਭਗਤਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਖਲਵਾਇਆ.
When one surrenders to this gracious inner mechanism of Dharam, something powerful happens. They gain the strength and clarity to live a virtuous life. The mind, along with its many faculties, begins to support this divine judgment rather than oppose it.
ਹਰ ਨਾਵੈ ਕੀ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਕਰਮ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਵੇ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਵਿਰਲੇ ਕਿਨੈ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ.
Even when just a few thoughts begin to transform under the guidance of Dharam, others soon follow. Slowly, the whole being starts aligning with virtue. This transformation is not forced, it happens by the grace of the divine within. Through this grace and consistent inner awareness, one begins to walk an exclusive path of truth, supported by uninterrupted remembrance and meditation. It is as if the inner world is governed by Dharam Roj, the divine principle of justice. Chapter 7. Life after death. The mystery of what happens after death has captivated human curiosity for centuries. Most spiritual traditions agree that the soul leaves the body at the moment of death, but what follows differs greatly across cultures. Some describe reincarnation, others speak of eternal heaven or hell. Some hope for liberation. Gurbani, however, offers a deeply transformative viewpoint. Rather than focusing on the afterlife, it turns our attention to the quality and consciousness of the life we are living right now. The mystery of departure. While we witness births, death remains shrouded in mystery. Life appears suddenly, like the lighting of a lamp, but its extinguishing is unseen, unknowable.
को कबीर भज सारंग पानी। आवत दीसै जात ना जानी।
Kabir says, live by divine virtue. We see many arrive in this world, but none knows how they leave. The teaching is clear: don't wait for answers about the unknown. Focus on living with awareness, devotion, and virtue in the now. What happens to the body? End-of-life rituals vary. Some bodies are cremated, some buried, others immersed in water or left in nature. Yet, despite these differences, Gurbani reminds us that the true destination of the soul is unknowable.
ਇੱਕ ਦਚੈ, ਇੱਕ ਦੱਬੀਐ, ਇੱਕ ਨਾ ਕੁੱਤੇ ਖਾਏ। ਇੱਕ ਪਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸਟੀਐ, ਇੱਕ ਵੀ ਫਿਰ ਹੱਸਣ ਪਾਏ। ਨਾਨਕ ਏਵ ਨਾ ਜਾਪਈ, ਕਿਥੈ ਜਾਏ ਸਮਾਏ।
Some are burned, some are buried, some are eaten by animals. Some dissolve in water, some are left in dry wells. O Nanak, none truly know where the soul goes. The point is not to dismiss rituals, but to question their significance when separated from a righteous life. No ceremony can substitute for how we live. Gurbani says,
बेणी कहे, सुनो रे भगतो, मरण मुकत किन पाई।
Bhogat Beni Ji asks, who has attained liberation after death? No one has ever come back to tell us they were liberated, suggesting that liberation does not happen after death. The futility of rituals after death. Whether a body is covered in sandalwood or dust makes no difference to the deceased. Once the soul departs, the body feels nothing. Gurbani says,
जे मृतक कहो चंदन चढ़ावे, उस ते कहू कवन फल पावे।
Applying perfume to a corpse brings no benefit. Similarly, putting dirt causes no harm. Liberation is not granted after death through prayer or ritual. It must be attained through conscious, spiritual living. Gurbani says, has anyone truly found liberation after death? Gurbani emphasizes that salvation is not something to hope for later, it's something we must strive for now. Wasted life without awareness. Gurbani offers a profound reflection. To live without divine remembrance is to never truly live.
जीवदया ना चेत्यो, मुआ रलंदड़ो खाक, नानक, दुनिया संग गुदारिया, साकत मूर नपाक।
Foolish and impure are those who waste this precious life in worldly attachments. No matter how long one lives, if they make no effort to lead a virtuous life, their existence remains unfulfilled. After death, the body returns to dust, leaving behind nothing but emptiness. One who departs from divine virtues while still alive has wasted their entire life, having gained nothing of true value. The final moments. As old age creeps in and death approaches, even our closest companions cannot comprehend what we're experiencing. When the final moment arrives, all worldly attachments dissolve. Gurbani says,
चौथे पहरे रैन कै, वणजारिया मित्रा, लावी आया खेत। जा जम पकड़ चलाया, वणजारिया मित्रा, किसे ना मिल्या पेत।
In the last quarter of life, death arrives. The soul departs, and no one knows the mystery of its journey. The relationships, possessions, and identities we clung to vanish in an instant. Death strips away illusion and leaves only the truth of how we lived. Shifting focus, from afterlife to this life. Gurbani gently pulls us away from speculating about what lies beyond, and refocuses us on what lies within. What matters most is not where we go, but how we live. Righteousness, compassion, and inner connection with the divine are the real paths to liberation. Instead of waiting for heaven after death, we are called to realize it while alive. This is the path of spiritual freedom while living, live with integrity, awareness, and love. That is the only preparation for what lies beyond, and the only way to truly honor what lies within. A life lived consciously is the greatest liberation. Gurbani emphasizes that speculation about the soul's journey is futile and unproductive. What happens after death is a mystery, but the purpose of life is not. Liberation, according to Gurbani, is not a future reward, it is a present realization. Let us not waste our days speculating about the life after death. Instead, let us walk the path of divine truth now, living fully, loving deeply, and remembering that the only moment we truly have is this one. Chapter 8. Heaven and Hell. Many believe that after death, the soul appears before a divine court to be judged. Based on one's actions, the soul is either rewarded with heaven or condemned to hell. This idea suggests that judgment and justice occur only after life ends. However, Gurbani offers a different perspective. Heaven and hell are not distant places but states of consciousness experienced in this very life. One who lives righteously, guided by divine wisdom, is free from negativity, ego, and restlessness even while alive. Such a person lives in divine harmony, a state we may call heaven. The divine court is not somewhere in the sky, it resides within our own heart. Conscience, intuition, and spiritual wisdom act as the voice of Dharam, the divine judge. When we ignore this voice and give in to vices, we fall into inner conflict and suffering, a state of hell. Gurbani says,
चंग्याइयां, बुराइयां, वाचे तरम हदूर.
This means that righteousness and wrongdoing are judged in the presence of inner divine truth. Terms like heaven and hell are used in Gurbani as
सचखंड, बैकुंठ, नरक, दोजक.
These terms are used as symbols of spiritual states, not physical destinations. Gurbani says,
अंदर राजा तख्त है, आपे करे न्याय.
The sovereign divine king sits within us, delivering justice through our own actions. This reinforces the idea that judgment is continuous and internal. It's not a final verdict after death, but a moment-by-moment spiritual reality.
कवन नरक, क्या सुर्ग बिचारा, संतन, दो राधे.
What is hell, and what is heaven? The wise dismiss both, relying only on divine wisdom.
सुर्ग बास ना बाछिए, डरिए ना नरक निवास.
Do not long for heaven or fear hell. Live aligned with divine order, and the rest will follow. A true seeker is not obsessed with rewards or punishments. Instead, they live by divine truth, allowing peace and clarity to flourish naturally. Understanding hell as spiritual suffering. In Gurbani, hell is the mental and spiritual pain caused by living in ego, attachment, and ignorance.
करे गुमान, चुबे तिस सूला, को काडन कौ नाई.
One who lives in arrogance feels constant inner torment, like thorns piercing the mind.
जिसके अंतर राज अभिमान, सो नरक पाती होवत स्वान.
Those consumed by pride suffer like a dog in hell.
मनमुख आवे, मनमुख जावे. मनमुख, फिर, चोटा खावे.
Those who follow only their mind's desires are trapped in endless suffering.
हार बिन जो रहना, नरक सो सहना.
To live without the divine is to suffer in hell. In modern life, this may look like constant anxiety, guilt, anger, or restlessness. When our lives revolve around self-centeredness and external validation, we experience a personal hell. Heaven as inner bliss. Likewise, Gurbani defines heaven not as a distant paradise but a state of divine peace and joy, accessible in this life.
सब कोई चलन कात है वहाँ, ना जानू बैकुंठ है कहाँ.
Everyone talks about reaching heaven, but where is it really?
साध संगत बैकुंठ है आए.
True heaven is found in the company of divine wisdom.
साध संगत.
Heaven is the state of inner contentment, truth, humility, and connection with the divine. It is not something to reach after death, but to cultivate through meditation, righteous actions, and love. In a life filled with compassion, mindfulness, and gratitude, even amid hardship, one lives in a heavenly state. Beyond reward and punishment, realizing liberation. Gurbani shifts the focus from reward, heaven, and punishment, hell, to inner realization and liberation. True peace is not found by fearing hell or desiring paradise. It is found by merging with divine wisdom and living truthfully. Heaven and hell are not cosmic destinations. They are emotional and spiritual experiences created through our connection or disconnection from the divine. When ego, greed, or anger dominate us, we suffer. When love, humility, and wisdom guide us, we thrive. Liberation is not about escaping death, it is about living in divine awareness here and now. Heaven and hell. Gurbani teaches that both heaven and hell are internal states, not external places. Hell is the suffering caused by separation from truth, driven by ego and ignorance. Heaven is the peace and joy of living in harmony with divine wisdom. The true goal is not reaching a better afterlife, but achieving spiritual liberation, right here, right now, through awareness, love, and selflessness. Liberation while alive is the essence of divine wisdom. Heaven and hell are not to be awaited after death, but awakened to in this very moment. Chapter 9. Transmigration. One of the more puzzling religious concepts is the belief in the soul's journey through 8.4 million species. It suggests that the soul, after physical death, transitions into other life forms based on its past actions. Karma, wandering through countless births before eventually attaining a rare human form. To escape this cycle, some traditions prescribe rituals, pilgrimages, scriptural recitations, or charity. Gurbani, however, offers a deeper, more transformative interpretation. Instead of focusing on physical reincarnation across species, Gurbani invites us to reflect on our moral character and state of consciousness in this life. Who is truly human? Biologically, we are classified as humans due to our physical form. But Gurbani questions, is being born in a human body enough to be called human? Gurbani emphasizes that true humanity is defined not by appearance, but by one's thoughts, actions, and spiritual awareness. It uses powerful metaphors to describe individuals who lack divine consciousness. A greedy person is likened to a dog. A lustful individual to a pig. One filled with ego and pride to a donkey. A violent or cruel person to a wild predator. A restless, impulsive mind to a monkey. These comparisons are not literal but spiritual metaphors. They reveal that even while in a human body, one's inner nature may mirror that of lower species.
जिन्ना सतगुर पुरख ना सेवियो, शब्द ना कीतो विचार, ओए मानस जून ना आखियन, पशु, टोर, गावार.
Those who do not serve the true guru or reflect on divine wisdom may have a human body, but their actions make them no different from animals or fools. Rebirth within a lifetime. Gurbani describes transmigration not as physical rebirth after death, but as a shift in inner state. A person can descend into animalistic tendencies while alive, or ascend into divinity through awareness and action. A compassionate soul rises in consciousness. A selfish or cruel person lowers their vibration, living as though in a degraded form. In this light, the 8.4 million species symbolize the range of human moods, traits, and spiritual states. Each moment, each choice, determines whether we evolve or regress. Metaphors from Gurbani.
मन मुख विण नावै कूड़ियार, फिरे बेतालिया, पशु, मानस चम पलेटे, अंदरो कालिया.
Outwardly human, inwardly dark, without divine wisdom, they drift like beasts.
लोभ लहर, सब स्वान हलक है, हल्कियों सबे बिगारे.
Greed turns one into a dog, always chasing, never fulfilled.
जिसके अंतर, राज अभिमान, सो नरकपाती, होवत स्वान.
A person full of ego becomes trapped in suffering like a craving hound.
बिन सिमरन, कूकर हरकाया.
Without divine remembrance, one becomes a barking, restless dog.
नानक, ते, नर, असल खर, जी बिन गुण गरब करंत.
The ego-driven without virtue are donkeys in disguise. These verses are not meant to shame, but to awaken, to reflect our inner state honestly and choose transformation. Escaping the cycle. Religions often portray reincarnation as a system of rewards and punishments. In contrast, Gurbani focuses on transcendence. The goal is not to fear rebirth, but to rise above negative tendencies and live in divine alignment. How do we break this inner cycle? Gurbani offers a clear path: self-reflection. Understand the motives behind our actions. Righteous living, Dharam cultivate truth, humility, and compassion. Meditation, Naam Simran center the mind on divine wisdom. Selfless service, serve without ego or personal gain. Detachment, let go of pride, greed, and fleeting pleasures.
हर बिसरत सो मुआ.
The one who forgets the divine is spiritually dead. Liberation in this life. The concept of 84 million species is not about fearing rebirth, it's a metaphor urging us to evolve in this very life. Every moment presents a choice: to embody divine virtues or to drift into lower states of being. True liberation, mukti, is not some distant escape, it is the awakening of consciousness here and now. When we live with awareness, serve with love, and remember the divine, we rise above the cycle. Real human birth is not just biological, it is spiritual. It begins the moment we awaken to truth, align with divine wisdom, and live from the heart. This is what it means to truly be human, according to the wisdom of Gurbani. Chapter 10. Liberation. The human mind is a restless, ever-changing force. It constantly produces thoughts, some rooted in hope, love, or creativity, others in fear, doubt, or ego. Often, the mind reacts to external situations, shifting between clarity and confusion. While not every thought turns into action, each one leaves an impression. Some remain buried like seeds beneath the surface, while others visibly shape our behavior. According to Gurbani, every thought carries an energy. Depending on its nature, that energy either lifts us up, bringing spiritual life, or pulls us down, creating inner death. Liberation is not freedom from physical rebirth after death. It is freedom from the mental and emotional cycles of bondage that occur while we are still alive. Birth and death as states of mind. Gurbani offers a profound perspective. Birth and death are not just physical events. They are also spiritual and emotional shifts that take place within us every moment. When the mind turns toward truth, humility, and compassion, it is spiritually reborn. When it sinks into ego, greed, and hatred, it experiences spiritual death. This ongoing rhythm between light and darkness, ignorance and awareness, is the real cycle of life and death. It is not somewhere outside of us, it is happening right now, within. Gurbani's metaphors for the inner cycle. To help us understand this, Gurbani uses vivid and symbolic imagery. For example,
जिसके अंतर राज अभिमान सो नरकपाती होवत स्वान.
one who is filled with pride and desire to dominate, behaves like a dog, living in a hellish state.
जो जाने मैं जोबनवंत सो होवत बिस्टा का जंत.
One who boasts of beauty or youth is like a worm in filth, trapped by illusion.
आपस कहो कर्मवंत कहावे जन्म मरे बौ जोन प्रमावे.
Those who perform good deeds with ego wander endlessly in delusion and rebirth.
तन पोम का जो करे गुमान सो मूर्ख अंधा अज्ञान.
Those who take pride in wealth and land are blind to life's true meaning. These metaphors don't just describe people, they reflect the states of consciousness we all pass through. Each time we let ego dominate, we die a little spiritually. Each time we choose humility, we are born again. What is true liberation? Liberation is not a mystical reward in some far-off afterlife. According to Gurbani, it is a present-moment reality, available to anyone who transforms their consciousness.
कर कृपा जिसके हृदय गरीबी बसावे नानक या मुकत आगे सुख पावे.
Blessed is the one whose heart overflows with humility. Such a soul is liberated within, their whole being blossoms in divine light. To be liberated is to be free from inner bondage, free from the push and pull of ego and pride, free from obsessive desire and anger, free from fear, insecurity, and the constant need for control. It is not the body that needs release, it is the mind that needs to awaken. As we do this, we begin to dissolve the unconscious patterns that bind us. Instead of reacting from fear or ego, we respond with wisdom. This is the beginning of true freedom. Freedom while living. The cycle of birth and death, as taught in Gurbani, is not just about reincarnation, it is a map of our inner journey. Every moment offers a choice, to fall into self-centered darkness or rise into divine awareness. Liberation is not an event after death, it is a shift in consciousness while alive. When we live with humility, gratitude, and wisdom, we no longer remain trapped in reaction. We become free, here and now. This is liberation, to die to ego and live in the light of truth. And that, says Gurbani, is the highest liberation. Chapter 11. The caste system. The caste system is not merely a social structure, it is a deep-rooted form of discrimination that divides human beings into high and low not based on character or deeds, but on birth, ego, and superficial labels. This division nurtures a toxic sense of superiority in some and imposes an unjust sense of inferiority on others. While the caste system is uniquely entrenched in South Asian history, it shares much in common with classism, a global form of discrimination where people are judged and divided by wealth, status, and perceived social value rather than character or virtue. Across the world, those labeled as low caste or untouchables have endured unimaginable oppression. Doors of homes and temples were closed to them. Education, the very foundation of empowerment, was denied. Their children were barred from schools. Even access to water was segregated, with separate wells for so-called high and low castes. For upper castes, it was offensive to even speak to someone from a lower caste. If the shadow of a low caste person fell on an object, it was considered polluted. Marriage across caste lines was strictly forbidden. People from lower castes had to keep their eyes down, avoiding eye contact with those considered superior. In Kerala, which is an Indian state, lower caste women were not even allowed to cover the upper part of their bodies in public. To do so, they had to pay a cruel breast tax. Shockingly, this was not ancient history, it happened in recent centuries. In Australia, Aboriginal people were treated as though they were part of the flora and fauna, the natural environment, not the human population. Until the late 20th century, they were excluded from the national census, could be hunted like animals, and were governed under laws designed for wildlife. Departments managing Aboriginal affairs were the same ones overseeing agriculture and animals. A pattern of domination across the world. Across different societies, a pattern of classism and social hierarchy has emerged. Just as the caste system imposes status by birth, classism reinforces inequality by wealth, education, or occupation. Across cultures, discrimination follows a familiar pattern. Those who manipulate systems often gain wealth, education, and power, while the honest and humble are left marginalized, unheard, and disadvantaged, even today. Today, the caste system has expanded into a broader class-based mindset, a form of modern classism, where the educated dominate the uneducated, the modern look down on the indigenous, the rich hold power over the poor, and the ego-driven suppress the humble. This subtle yet systemic form of violence continues to shape our world, unless we awaken to its injustice and commit to standing for equality, dignity, and the oneness of all humanity. The voice against caste. The Gurbani firmly rejects the caste system, affirming that all human beings are equal in the eyes of the divine. According to Gurbani, no one is superior or inferior by birth. A person's true worth is determined by their actions, karma, and devotion to the Creator. Guru Nanak Sahib boldly challenged the social norms of his time, declaring the oneness of all humanity.
साहेब मेरा एको है, एको है पाई एको है.
My master is one, my master alone is one, O brother, my master alone is one. Guru Nanak Sahib walked among the downtrodden, not the privileged. He stood with the oppressed and rejected caste-based pride.
नीचा अंदर नीच जात नीची हूँ अत नीच. नानक तिनके संग साथ, वड्या स्यों क्या रीस.
I stand with the lowest of the low, the outcasts and the oppressed. Why should I compete with the privileged? Divine grace is found where the neglected and marginalized are cared for. Gurbani repeatedly states that all humans come from the same divine source.
अवल अला नूर उपाया कुदरत के सब बंदे. एक नूर ते सब जग उपज्या, कौन पले को मंदे.
From the one light, the entire universe was created. If the Creator is the same for all, then how can we label some as good and others as bad? Gurbani warns against the arrogance of caste pride, which leads to spiritual downfall.
जाति दे क्या हाथ, सच परखिए. मोरा होवे हाथ, मरिए चखिए.
What power does caste hold? One is judged only by truth. If one consumes poison, one will surely die. Gurbani questioned caste superiority directly.
जो तू ब्राह्मण ब्राह्मणी जाया, तो आन बाट काहे नहीं आया.
If you were born a Brahmin from a Brahmin mother and consider yourself special, then why did you not come into the world in some other way? While the caste system is rooted in ancient social structures, its spirit persists today through modern classism. Whether labeled as caste or class, any system that ranks people based on wealth, occupation, education, or lineage violates the spiritual truth of oneness. Gurbani calls for the dismantling of both caste pride and class arrogance, urging us to honor each individual as a manifestation of the divine. Gurbani preaches against caste, and the gurus acted to abolish it through the institution of Langar, free community kitchen. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Amar Das Ji, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji ensured that everyone, rich or poor, Brahmin or farmer, sat together on the same level to eat. This simple yet powerful act dismantled social hierarchy and promoted unity, in the spirit of true equality. Langar welcomes all, rich and poor, black, white, and brown, regardless of caste, class, creed, religion, color, or gender. It is a living expression of the oneness of humanity and the rejection of all forms of discrimination. Caste is often reinforced through family names and social status passed down generations. But Gurbani reminds us that our only true identity is as children of the Creator.
तुम मात पिता हम बारिक तेरे, तुमरी कृपा मैं सूख कनेरे.
You are our mother and father, and we are your children. If the divine has no caste, surname, or division, why should we adopt labels that divide us? Gurbani makes it clear, honor is not inherited, it is earned through righteous living and divine connection.
खसम विसारे ते कमजात, नानक नावे बाज सनात.
Those who forget the divine are of lowly status. O Nanak, without the name, they are mere outcasts.
कमजात
Means those who forget the divine fall into a low state. On Vaisakhi, the 30th of March 1699, Guru Gobind Singh Ji established the Khalsa, pure, at Anandpur Sahib. In doing so, he delivered a final blow to caste identity. All male Sikhs were given the name Singh, lion, and all women the name Kaur, princess, rejecting surnames that indicated caste or lineage. Priests and Brahmins were no longer considered spiritually superior. 5 beloved ones came from different castes and backgrounds. 1. By Daya Singh, Khatri, trader, from Lahore. 2. By Dharam Singh, Jat, farmer, from Hastinapur. 3. By Himmat Singh, Chimba, water carrier, from Jagannath Puri. 4. By Mokam Singh, washerman, from Dwarka. 5. By Sahib Singh, barber, from Bidar. By choosing them from diverse backgrounds, Guru Gobind Singh Ji demonstrated that spiritual greatness lies not in birth, but in devotion, courage, and service. The initiation of the Khalsa erased caste divisions, establishing a path of equality, fearlessness, and oneness. Chapter 12. Gender Equality. Although the horrific practice of burning a widow along with her deceased husband, known as sati prata, has been abolished, the shadow of gender inequality still looms large in our society. The dowry system, a deeply rooted social evil, continues to haunt many families, reducing sacred unions to transactions and diminishing the dignity of women. Despite societal advancements, women are still considered the weaker gender in a predominantly male-dominated world. What's more disheartening is that this belief often finds a place within religious thought and institutions. In some spiritual traditions, women are regarded as obstacles to a man's spiritual journey, as distractions or temptations rather than as fellow seekers of truth. The Purdah tradition, a practice of veiling women, once a symbol of modesty imposed on women, has seen a decline in some areas. But in many cultures and religious communities, the requirement for women to veil themselves persists. Often, this practice is enforced not as a personal choice but as a compulsory sign of submission and control. The veil becomes symbolic not just of covering the face or body, but of silencing the voice and presence of women in the public and spiritual spheres. Even today, there are religious places where women are outright denied entry. Others permit entry but not participation on equal footing. In several institutions, women are forbidden from holding the highest religious positions. The supreme roles are often reserved for men. In some temples, mosques, churches, and synagogues, the spiritual leadership remains exclusively male, perpetuating the idea that women are spiritually less capable. For instance, in Gurdwaras, places founded on the egalitarian teachings of the Gurus, women are allowed entry, but their participation in leadership roles or key religious activities is often limited. This disparity contradicts the very essence of the Sikh faith, which from its inception promoted equality for all. In addition to spiritual exclusion, discrimination against women exists in other core areas of life. Education. In many parts of the world, especially in patriarchal societies, girls are still denied access to education. They are expected to take care of the household while their brothers are sent to school. This denial of education is not just a denial of literacy. It is a denial of independence, voice, and opportunity. Property rights. In many cultures, women are either denied inheritance or receive a fraction of what is given to male heirs. This perpetuates economic dependency and limits their ability to stand on equal ground, even within their own families. These forms of inequality are not just social or legal issues, they reflect deep spiritual misunderstandings. Any society that claims to be spiritually awakened cannot accept these injustices as part of divine will. Guru Nanak boldly challenged the norms of his time. In Gurbani, he writes,
"Pand jammiye, pand nimmiye, pand mangan vi aao. Pando hove dosti, pando chalera. Pand mua pand paliye, pand hove bandan. So क्यों मंदा आखिए जित जम्मै राजान। पंडो ही पंड उपजै, पंडे बाज न कोय। नानक पंडे बारा, एको सचा सोए। जित मुख सदा सालाइए, पागा रति चार। नानक ते मुख उजले, तित सचै दरबार।
From woman, man is born. Within woman, man is conceived. To woman, he is engaged and married. Through woman, new generations arise. When a man's wife dies, he seeks another. Through woman, he is bound in relationships. Then why should she be maligned, from whom even kings are born? From woman, woman is born, and without woman, none can exist. O Nanak, only the one true Creator is beyond gender. This powerful verse shatters the foundation of gender-based discrimination. It not only acknowledges the indispensability of women but also uplifts their status as essential contributors to society and spirituality. Gurbani further states,
ठाकुर एक सबाई नार।
There is only one divine Lord, and all souls are his brides. This line goes even further, equating all souls, regardless of gender, as feminine in relation to the one divine Creator. It removes any possibility of gender superiority, reminding us that spiritually, we are all equals. In Gurbani, the central figure being addressed and guided is not male or female, it is the mind. Both men and women possess this mind, which is plagued by the same inner evils: ego, deceit, attachment, anger, and hypocrisy. The transformation of the mind is the true spiritual journey. It is only by cultivating virtues like compassion, truth, humility, and contentment that any human, male or female, can grow closer to the divine. When we recognize this, it becomes clear that spirituality is not a male pursuit. It is a human pursuit. True spirituality, as enshrined in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, is a force that liberates the soul from all man-made boundaries, including those based on gender. If we are to create a just and awakened society, we must return to this original divine wisdom and ensure that no one, woman or man, is left behind. Let us build a world where divinity is not confined to robes, rituals, or roles, but realized in the equality and dignity of all beings. Let education, opportunity, inheritance, and spiritual leadership become rights, not privileges, equally shared by all. Only then can we truly say that all is one. Chapter 13. Good luck or bad luck. The concept of luck, whether good fortune or misfortune, is present in nearly every belief system. Many traditions associate luck with divine blessings, karma, fate, or cosmic forces, while others attribute it to one's actions and mindset. Luck is often defined as the occurrence of events beyond a person's control, perceived as either favorable or unfavorable. In religious and spiritual contexts, people commonly equate good luck with success, when their efforts yield positive results and circumstances align in their favor. Conversely, failure or obstacles are often labeled as bad luck or misfortune. However, this perspective raises an important question. Is luck truly an external force, or is it shaped by one's own choices, beliefs, and actions? For good luck, people often give importance to specific days on the calendar. Some days are considered highly favorable for certain tasks, while others are seen as unlucky. Out of fear of failure, individuals carefully choose what they believe to be the luckiest time for important events, such as weddings, starting a new business, or making significant purchases like a house, car, or even furniture. Visiting an astrologer is a common practice to determine the most auspicious date and time. Astrologers analyze a person's birth date, along with the position of the sun, moon, and stars, to predict their fortune. It is believed that zodiac signs play a significant role, and many people closely follow astrological guidance to improve their chances of success. Whether consciously or subconsciously, this belief in luck shapes many aspects of daily life, influencing decisions both big and small. In reality, luck is simply what happens when preparation meets opportunity. True success is the result of effort combined with the right knowledge, not mere chance. Gurbani challenges superstitions surrounding luck and emphasizes divine will, that is hukam, and personal effort, that is karam. According to Gurbani, no day or moment is inherently lucky or unlucky. The only truly fortunate moments in life are those spent in alignment with divine virtues, honesty, compassion, humility, and selflessness. Conversely, the moments when one ignores these virtues and indulges in falsehood, greed, or selfishness are truly unfortunate. A meaningful life is not shaped by the stars but by one's actions and the wisdom that guides them.
नानक सोई दिनस सुहावड़ा जित प्रभ आवे चित जित दिन विसरै पार ब्रह्म फिट पलेरी रुत.
O Nanak, the only truly beautiful and blessed day is the one when divine dwells in the heart. The day divine virtue is forgotten, is unfortunate and cursed.
सबे रुती चंगिया जित सचे स्योने सा तन कंत पछाण्या सुख सुती निसडे.
Considering one's soul as the bride and the divine as the husband, the soul bride who realizes her husband divine finds all seasons pleasant, for in every season, her love remains united with the eternal, unchanging divine. She dwells in perfect bliss and rests peacefully day and night. A life lived with divine action serves as a testament to those individuals who, with a true heart, have stepped onto the path of truth through hard work. This exemplifies
मस्तक पाग चंगेरा,
meaning that one's forehead is adorned with blessings earned through righteous endeavors. On the other hand, individuals who forsake love and divine virtues, wandering away from the path, subject themselves to a life filled with the detrimental qualities of greed. Forgetting godliness, they remain defeated in a life marred by vices. Due to their attachment to desires and being influenced by perceptions, beliefs, and intellect, their thoughts are labeled as ignorant or spiritually unaware, foolish. Such a life is the epitome of the saying,
मस्तक पाग मंदेरा,
which signifies that one's forehead is burdened with misfortune, a fate shaped by unrighteous actions. In society, wealth is often equated with good luck. The rich are seen as fortunate, envied for their luxurious homes, expensive cars, and large bank balances. On the other hand, those who live in poverty are frequently considered unlucky, simply because they lack material possessions. These views are shaped by the capitalist framework, where economic status is a major indicator of one's perceived success or failure. However, Guru Granth Sahib Ji presents a radically different perspective. Gurbani teaches that external wealth does not define a person's true richness. Instead, the real measure of wealth is inner virtue and divine presence within one's heart.
जिनके पले तन वसै तिनका नाव फकीर, जिनके हृदय तू वसै तिन नर गुणी गहीर.
Those who possess only this worldly wealth are known as paupers. But those within whose hearts dwells the divine, those individuals are oceans of virtue. This verse emphasizes that worldly riches without divine presence are empty. Such a person, despite their material abundance, is spiritually poor. True richness lies in qualities like humility, love, and wisdom. Those in whom the divine resides are deeply enriched, regardless of their economic status. This reframing of richness and poverty shifts the focus from external to internal. It dissolves the illusion that luck is determined by possessions and instead invites us to recognize that lasting fortune lies in aligning with divine truth. In this light, a poor but virtuous person is far more fortunate than a rich but spiritually disconnected one. Chapter 14. Intoxication. Intoxication refers to a state in which a person's physical and mental faculties become impaired due to the influence of substances such as alcohol, drugs, or other chemicals. According to Gurbani, intoxication weakens self-control, distorts perception, and leads to reckless behavior, ultimately pulling a person away from morality and righteousness. Why and how do people get addicted? People turn to intoxicants for various reasons. Some succumb to peer pressure, fearing rejection if they do not partake. Others seek momentary pleasure or escape from stress. What may begin as an experiment or a temporary coping mechanism can quickly spiral into addiction. Life is full of ups and downs, successes and failures, joys and sorrows. If a person does not cultivate inner stability and mental balance, they may drift away from righteousness and turn to self-destructive behaviors. An unsteady mind makes impulsive decisions, leading to dependency on intoxicants. No one begins drinking alcohol or using drugs with the intention of becoming addicted. What starts as a casual sip or a small dose often seems harmless, but it can quietly lead to dependency and suffering. Gurbani strictly warns against even the smallest indulgence, as intoxication removes self-control in both joyous and sorrowful moments, distancing one from virtue and wisdom. Yet, intoxication only provides a temporary escape. Once its effects fade, reality remains unchanged. Those who continuously seek intoxication to avoid reality fall deeper into addiction, leading to suffering and destruction. Gurbani's view on intoxication. Gurbani strongly forbids intoxicants, stating that they impair judgment, cause forgetfulness of the divine, and invite suffering.
मानस पर्या आनया, मानस पर्या आए. जित पीते मत दूर होए बरल पवै विच आए. आपना पराया ना पछाणई खसमो तके खाए. जित पीते खसम विसरे दरगाह मिले सजाए. झूठा मद मूल न पीचई जेका पार वसाए. नानक नदरी सच मद पाइयै सतगुर मिले जिस आए. सदा साहिब कै रंग रहे मां हली पावे थाओ.
A person who is deeply entangled in vices is already burdened by them. Indulgence in intoxicants and immoral acts further entraps them. Alcohol clouds judgment, fuels reckless speech, and blinds one's wisdom, making it impossible to distinguish between friend and foe. Such a person fails to receive divine grace and lives a life devoid of morality. The one who forgets righteousness falls into a cycle of suffering, which itself becomes a form of punishment. However, those who, by the Guru's grace, cultivate divine qualities experience a different kind of intoxication, the bliss of morality and righteousness. This spiritual intoxication is permanent, filling one's life with divine love and eternal peace. Gurbani warns that alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and all substances that impair clarity and well-being must be avoided. True intoxication is not from these substances but from the bliss of divine connection, which brings eternal wisdom and peace. The deceptive allure of puffing and smoking. In today's society, puffing and smoking, whether cigarettes, cigars, hookah, or vapes, are often perceived as symbols of relaxation or style. But beneath this illusion lies a reality of severe health, emotional, and societal consequences. Even casual puffing, without deeply inhaling, exposes the body to harmful toxins. These substances damage the lungs, mouth, and throat, and over time lead to chronic illnesses like cancer and heart disease. Despite widespread awareness of these dangers, many youth still fall into the trap, lured not just by peer pressure, but by clever advertising and glamorized portrayals in movies, where heroes smoke and drink to appear confident or rebellious. Young minds, in their formative years, are particularly vulnerable. Peer pressure and media influence create an illusion that smoking signifies maturity or success. Some come from homes where smoking, drinking, or drug use is normalized, making it more likely for children to adopt these behaviors. In other cases, stress, anxiety, or depression pushes individuals toward puffing or drinking as a temporary escape from their inner turmoil. But the relief is fleeting, the real problems remain, and the cycle of falsehood deepens. What begins as a single puff can lead to dependency, affecting family life, decision-making, and emotional stability. Relationships suffer. Finances deteriorate. A society where such addictions spread becomes less mindful, more violent, and morally fragile. Gurbani reminds us that no external substance can resolve internal suffering. Instead of suppressing pain through intoxication, one must rise above it through divine awareness, inner virtue, and connection with truth. The intoxication of ego. Beyond physical substances, Gurbani also warns against another dangerous intoxication, ego. A person intoxicated with self-importance and pride loses control over their actions, thoughts, and emotions. An ego-driven individual becomes trapped in their own arrogance, fixating on others' faults while remaining blind to their own. They foster envy, resentment, backbiting, and harsh speech, rejecting humility and morality. Gurbani describes this state as follows.
ज दुर्गंध तहा तू बैसे महाभिख्या मत चाखी.
Wherever it stinks, one lands there, stuck in the most toxic stench. Just as a physically intoxicated person loses clarity, one intoxicated with ego cannot see beyond their pride. This spiritual blindness poisons relationships, corrupts the mind, and distances a person from righteousness. True liberation comes when one frees themselves from both physical and mental intoxications, replacing them with humility, self-awareness, and devotion to truth. True intoxication, the bliss of divine connection. Gurbani declares that the sweetness of spiritual bliss, the nectar of divine morality, is far more fulfilling than any intoxicant. Those who experience this divine intoxication become free from attachment of negativity.
राम रस पियारे, जे रस बिसर गए रस और.
I have drunk the essence of the Lord's name, by which all other worldly flavors have been forgotten.
जिन पिया से मस्त पए है टूटे बंधन फाहे, ज्योति ज्योत समाणी पीतर ता छोड़े माया के लाहे.
Those who drink this divine nectar become enraptured, breaking free from all bonds and shackles of ego. When one's inner light merges with the divine light, the desire for malicious thoughts dissolves, leaving only purity and oneness with the divine. This divine intoxication is not temporary. It is an everlasting state of bliss that fills the heart with peace, wisdom, and contentment. Gurbani urges us to reject false intoxications, whether from substances or ego, and instead seek the bliss of divine wisdom and morality. Instead of seeking momentary escapes, one should turn inward, cultivate virtue, and immerse in divine remembrance. This is the only intoxication that liberates rather than enslaves, bringing true peace and fulfillment. By internalizing divine wisdom, even those who lack virtue can receive divine grace, break free from suffering, and embrace a life of divine bliss. Intoxication in the digital age. While Gurbani primarily addresses substance-based intoxication and ego, its wisdom is timeless, relevant even in today's digital age. Modern intoxicants are not limited to alcohol or drugs. Technology, social media, online gambling, constant news cycles, and even the relentless pursuit of likes, shares, and followers have become new forms of intoxication. These digital habits cloud judgment, disturb mental peace, and fuel ego, just like traditional intoxicants. Gurbani describes intoxication as anything that pulls the mind away from truth, contentment, and divine connection. The restlessness, comparison, and ego-driven behaviors fostered by excessive digital engagement mirror the same recklessness and disconnection warned about in relation to alcohol and pride. Thus, Gurbani's call to avoid intoxicants extends beyond substances. It invites us to examine anything that enslaves the mind, whether chemical, emotional, or digital. True intoxication is not found in temporary pleasures, but in the lasting bliss of divine remembrance and virtue. Whether through substances or screens, intoxication dulls awareness. Divine wisdom sharpens it. The choice is ours, to be intoxicated by the short-lived or to be enraptured by the eternal. Chapter 15. Ghost. Mythological stories, combined with the use of light, sound, camera, and other cinematic techniques, have the power to portray characters, both protagonists and antagonists, in such a dramatic manner that people often begin to perceive these mythological figures as real. It's not just television dramas and movies that reinforce this belief, but also mythological and religious texts that advocate the existence of ghosts. Additionally, unexplained personal experiences, cultural traditions, and societal narratives further strengthen the belief that the soul, after death, transforms into a ghost. These narratives have traveled from person to person, passed down through oral traditions, written texts, and, in modern times, through various media platforms. Ghosts in Gurbani is termed as
Bhoot.
That captivates the imagination of the masses because it includes elements of drama, action, thrill, and fear, keeping people engrossed in its mysteries. According to popular stories and experiences shared by people, the depiction of ghosts is often vivid and terrifying. Their faces are described as distorted, they are believed to fly, remain invisible, and sometimes manifest themselves to those who commit immoral acts or to seek revenge for their untimely death. Their hands are portrayed as long and extendable, with sharp nails used to pierce their victims. They are believed to float in the air, appear anywhere in the world, and their feet are said to be inverted, adding to the horror associated with their image. Such descriptions, deeply ingrained in media portrayals, mythological stories, and some ancient texts, contribute to the widespread belief in their existence. Influenced by these stories, people begin to form mental images and strong perceptions about ghosts. In many cases, hallucinations or psychological phenomena can also create such impressions in the mind. However, Gurbani offers a profound and alternative perspective on the concept of ghosts. A metaphor for negative qualities. Gurbani shifts the focus from the supernatural to the internal, emphasizing human behavior, actions, thoughts, and the faculties of the mind. The term bhoot, ghost, is often used metaphorically in Gurbani to describe ferocious, revengeful, and uncompassionate ideas, thoughts, actions, and behaviors of a person who deviates from the path of morality and virtues. Kabir beautifully captures this idea in a verse.
कबीर जाकर साध न सेवी है हर की सेवा नाए ते कारमार हट सारखे पोत बसै तिन माए.
The essence of this verse is that when a person does not prioritize divine virtues and fails to serve goodness, their inner state becomes like a graveyard where negative, ghost-like qualities reside. One who lacks humility, gratitude, and the discipline to stay away from vices is likened to a ghost. Their overall personality reflects negativity, ferocity, and destructive tendencies, much like the characteristics associated with ghosts. A person who neglects divine virtues and indulges in immoral actions becomes a reflection of a bhoot. Their thoughts move in the opposite direction of wisdom, their hands work to harm others, and their presence brings discomfort to those around them. Gurbani describes that when one forgets divine virtues, the mind leans towards ghostly thoughts and actions, leading to a life devoid of moral values. This is captured in the verse. Interestingly, the term bhoot also describes the past, something that is no longer alive and will never return. When a person's past is filled with dominance over others, backbiting, deceit, ego, and immoral actions, those haunting memories continue to trouble the mind, creating a sense of fear and unease. Such a past becomes like a frightening ghost or bhoot that lingers, affecting the present and shaping future actions. 5 bhoots, vices. In another profound metaphor, Gurbani refers to the 5 vices. Desires, calm, anger, crod, greed, lobe, attachment, moh, and ego, ahankar, as ghosts. These vices wander aimlessly in the mind, causing destruction and unrest. However, these bhoots can be transformed through the Guru's wisdom and grace. When a person cultivates the virtues of contentment, humility, and righteousness, the perception shifts, and the 5 bhoots are replaced with divine qualities, ultimately transforming the person's entire being.
ए मन सात संतोख्या नदर करे तिस माए पंचपूत सच पाए रते जोत सची मन माए नानक अवगण विसरे गुर राखे पत्ताए.
This verse explains that when the mind becomes content with truth and divine grace is bestowed, the 5 bhoots, vices, are transformed, and the divine light fills the mind. The person is then honored in the divine court, where virtues replace vices, and negative thoughts fade away. According to Gurbani, bhoot, ghost, ultimately refers to the spirit, or atma, of a person who wanders away from goodness and welfare, not after death, but while living this very life. A person who strays from the path of righteousness, indulges in negative thoughts, and fails to cultivate divine virtues lives like a bhoot, haunting their own life and the lives of others. Thus, Gurbani invites us to look beyond the supernatural perception of ghosts and recognize the deeper metaphor, one that urges us to purify our thoughts, cultivate divine virtues, and walk the path of righteousness to transform the ghost within. Chapter 16. Rituals. Rituals are external practices performed in the name of religion or tradition. They may involve prayers, fasts, offerings, pilgrimages, or symbolic gestures meant to honor the divine, purify the soul, or mark significant life events. While many rituals are rooted in cultural heritage and can bring people together in shared experience, Gurbani repeatedly reminds us that rituals without understanding, sincerity, or inner transformation are empty and even misleading. A person may bathe in holy rivers, recite sacred verses, and perform elaborate ceremonies. But if the heart remains filled with ego, pride, or selfishness, these acts have little spiritual value.
जे सौ चंदा उगवे, सूरज चढ़े हजार, एते चानन होंदियां, गुर बिन कोर अंधार.
Even if 100 moons were to rise, and 1,000 suns appeared, without the divine wisdom, there would still be pitch darkness. Gurbani emphasizes that divine wisdom, humility, and truthful living are far more important than ritual performance. Real transformation happens when one follows the divine wisdom, savor, selfless service, and living in alignment with truth. Before we explore the rituals practiced across religions, let us reflect on a profound verse by Guru Nanak Sahib, which critiques hollow ritualism and redirects our attention toward a life rooted in inner virtues.
Shalok mala pehla, mer maseed, sidak musalla, haq halal Quran, shram sunnat, sheel roza, ho Musalman, karni Kaaba, sach peer, kalma karam niwaz, tashbih saat tis pavsi, Nanak rakhe laaj.
If the virtue of mercy becomes the place of worship, the inner core of faith the mat upon which to pray, sincerity and devotion the sacred words of Scripture, a sense of shame for wrongdoing the circumcision, abstinence from the food of vices the true fasting, attaining high moral character the pilgrimage to the holy shrine, and thoughts and actions aligned with truth the spiritual guide, if good deeds become the foundation of faith, and actions arise from inner awareness and divine connection, then such a way of life is the true prayer. If this is religion, says Nanak, it is pleasing, and it preserves one's honor in the divine inner court. This powerful verse reframes the core rituals: place of worship, prayer mat, religious book, circumcision, fasting, pilgrimage, spiritual guide, declaration of faith, and prayer, not as external performances, but as inner virtues. Bhagat Kabir Ji says,
माथे तिलक, हाथ माला बाना, लोगन राम खिलौना जाना.
There are some who place ceremonial marks on their foreheads. They hold rosaries in their hands and wear long religious robes. They appear to be deeply spiritual on the outside, but all of it, just outer show. Some people believe that by wearing these religious symbols and garments, they can impress the divine, as if the Creator can be fooled by appearance. As if God is a plaything, who can be won over by rituals and costumes.
Jo hau bora tau ram tora, log maram ka jane mora, rahaun.
People often say, Kabir is mad. They look at me, and they don't understand. They think I've lost my mind. But, O divine, I belong to you. How can these people ever understand what I feel within? How can they see the love that burns silently in my heart? They only look at the outside.
Toro na pati pujo na deva, Ram pagat bin nefal seva.
I do not pluck leaves as part of ritual offerings. I do not bow to idols. Why? Because without true love, without true devotion, such worship is empty. It becomes a ritual, void of meaning, void of connection.
Satgur pujo sada sada manavo, aisi sev dargah sukh pavo.
Instead, I worship, I follow divine wisdom, the true Guru. Not once, not twice, but again and again, forever. I surrender to the divine completely, with all my heart. It is in this surrender, in this loving devotion, that I find peace. Not in rituals, not in outer forms, but in the court of the divine, where truth alone is seen, That is where I find rest.
लोग कहे कबीर बोराना, कबीर का मरम राम पहचाना.
People still say, Kabir has gone insane. They do not understand this kind of love, this kind of devotion. But the one who truly knows me, the one who resides in my heart, the divine, knows my secret. And that is enough for me. Gurbani's message is not to reject any specific tradition but to awaken the essence behind all traditions. That divine realization is not found in outward actions alone, but in the living experience of truth, humility, compassion, and righteous conduct. With this guiding wisdom, we now turn to explore common rituals across various faiths, such as haircutting, sacred thread, circumcision, fasting, and pilgrimage, not to dismiss them, but to understand their spiritual intent and limitations in light of this deeper truth. Across the world's religions, each tradition holds its own set of rituals for newborns. Instead of allowing a child to grow and choose their own path, parents and religious authorities often take early steps to initiate the child into their faith through ceremonial acts. These rituals differ greatly across cultures and belief systems, yet they serve a common purpose: to mark spiritual belonging from the very beginning of life. Let's take a closer look at some of these rituals. Commonly observed ceremonies include the head-shaving ritual, Mundan, circumcision, the sacred thread ceremony, baptism, and Amrit Sanskar. Each of these is rooted in tradition and carries deep meaning for those who practice them. But Guru Nanak encourages us to ask an important question: are these outward acts by themselves enough to help us grow spiritually, or is true growth found within, by developing virtues, awareness, and a closer bond with the divine? One of the rituals is wearing the sacred thread. A significant instance occurred when Guru Nanak Sahib was asked to wear the sacred thread. Instead of accepting the cotton thread, he expressed his desire to wear a thread woven from compassion. Gurbani says,
Daya kapa, santok soot, jat gandi, satvat, e janeu ji ka, haita pande kat, na e tute, na mal lage, na e jale, na jaye, tan su manas nanka, jo gal challe paye, chaukad mul anaya, ਬੈ ਚੌਕੇ ਪਾਇਆ, ਸਿੱਖਾ ਕੰਨ ਚੜਾਇਆ, ਗੁਰ ਬ੍ਰਾਹਮਣ ਥਿਆ, ਉਹ ਮੁਆ, ਉਹ ਚੜ ਪਿਆ, ਵੇ ਤੱਗਾ ਗਿਆ.
He explained that the foundation of such a sacred thread should be built upon mercy and compassion for others. Lust, greed, and selfish desires should be kept at bay, allowing the senses to remain content. Modesty in one's behavior would serve as the knot that ties the thread, and truth would be the fiber that twists and strengthens it. This, Nanak implied, is the sacred thread he wished to wear, a thread made of core values that are not worn physically but are adorned by the soul. Such a thread, once worn, cannot break, soil, burn, or be lost. Only those who wear this thread of virtues are truly blessed. In contrast, the physical thread, bought for a small price, is placed around the neck of devotees, accompanied by whispered religious instructions from the priest. However, if one, despite wearing this thread and receiving such instructions, abandons morality, it is akin to spiritual death, rendering the sacred thread meaningless. The physical thread cannot prevent corrupt thoughts or the demise of moral values. True protection comes from cultivating compassion, contentment, modesty, and truth. Without these, no external thread can safeguard one's morality. Another common ritual is shaving the head. In Hindu tradition, Mundan is a ritual where a child's head is shaved, usually between the ages of 1 and 3. In Jewish tradition, particularly among some Orthodox communities, Upsharin is a ceremony where boys receive their first haircut at the age of 3. In Islam, Akikah involves cutting a child's hair on the 7th day after birth. Similarly, Buddhism also observes the practice of shaving a child's head as part of its customs. In Sikhi, however, hair is considered a gift from nature and is therefore not cut. These diverse customs highlight differing perspectives. Some traditions regard cutting hair as sacred, while others consider uncut hair as the natural and divine state. Bhagat Kabir, critiques external rituals in favor of inner transformation. He observes that people shave their heads, believing it to hold spiritual significance, yet they fail to cleanse their minds of ego and impurity. True purification, he implies, lies in shaving away the filth of arrogance and ignorance from the mind rather than merely shaving one's head.
कबीर, मन मुंड्या नहीं, केश मुंडाए काए, जो किच किया, सो मन किया, मुंडा मूड अजाएं.
Kabir, why shave your hair when the real need is to shave the mind? Whatever is done is a matter of the mind. Shaving the head alone is meaningless. This perspective urges us to reflect on whether external rituals genuinely serve a deeper purpose or if they become empty gestures when detached from inner growth. Kabir further emphasizes that the mind remains trapped in duality, and to overcome this, one must surrender to the laws of nature. True love lies in uniting with the invincible, which dissolves the dual and fragmented self.
कबीर प्रीत इक स्यों किए, आन दुबिदा जाए, पावै लांबे केस कर, पावै करर मुड़ाए.
Kabir says, by loving the One, duality disappears. If one embraces this divine wisdom, they naturally progress towards spiritual growth. As hair grows, symbolizing continuity and acceptance of divine will, one who truly understands this message shaves away the weeds of ego that grow in the mind. Kabir's teachings invite us to recognize that true spiritual progress lies not in external conformity but in internal transformation. Another common ritual is visiting a place of worship. A place of worship is so special and dear to a devotee that one often becomes deeply attached to the building itself, but fails to cultivate merciful connections with others. This attachment can become so intense that one may even be willing to kill or die to protect or control the structure, the place, or its architecture, sometimes at the cost of innocent lives. Guru Nanak draws a profound parallel between a place of worship and the virtue of mercy. He considers mercy to be the true essence of a place of worship. Throughout his life, Guru Nanak did not establish any physical building to serve as a place of worship. Instead, he emphasized the importance of cultivating merciful emotions within one's heart, teaching that the heart itself should be regarded as the true place of worship rather than a physical structure. Association with the objects used for prayer. Whether it's a special plate, mat, incense, bell, or any other object used for prayer, people often become attached to these external symbols of faith. However, true faith lies within. Faith in the inner divine is essential, not the outer objects. When it comes to faith, people tend to buy the most expensive items or seek the finest materials, believing these will enhance their devotion. They use special ornaments, specific types of wood, or carefully chosen fabrics, etc. But Guru Nanak emphasizes that the most important element required for prayer is not the quality of these external objects but the inner core value of faith. He draws a parallel to highlight that faith itself should be the true object of prayer, not the physical precious items. Association with the religious book. It is the birthright of every individual to use the wisdom bestowed by the Creator, for this wisdom nourishes the soul. The voice of inner divinity conveys precious and righteous truths, guiding one toward the path of truth. When embraced with sincerity and devotion, these divine words become sacred, illuminating the way to righteousness. These words are not confined to any one book or tradition, they are inscribed within everybody's heart. They are the sacred text of the soul, offering timeless wisdom. These words are pious and should be treated as spiritual hymns, for they carry the fragrance of divinity and the light of understanding. However, merely reading sacred texts without understanding and internalizing their message has little impact on the mind. Without true comprehension, one is unable to exercise the birthright of applying divine wisdom when and where it is needed. Ritualistic practice of circumcision. Circumcision is a surgical procedure that involves the removal of the foreskin, the fold of skin covering the head of the male organ. A deep sense of shame for wrongdoing functions as a form of moral purification. When a person experiences genuine remorse for immoral actions, It signifies a transformation of their conscience, removing the impurity of wrongdoing from their mind and soul. This process parallels how circumcision is believed to remove physical impurity in certain religious traditions. Kabir, with sharp irony, questions this practice by asking, if circumcision at the physical level makes one a Muslim, then what about a woman? True moral purification, he suggests, requires circumcision at the level of conscience, a necessity for both men and women. Genuine abashment for immoral acts is what leads to this deeper and internal purification. He says,
सुन्नत किए तुर्क जे होएगा, औरत का क्या करिए?
If circumcision makes one a Muslim, then what about a woman? Ritualistic practice of fasting. Abstaining from harsh, chaotic, aggressive, immoral, deceitful, egotistical, and vain behavior is akin to observing a true fast, Rosary, which involves refraining from such crooked conduct. Gurbani emphasizes that genuine spiritual discipline extends far beyond mere abstinence from food. True devotion lies in cultivating sweetness in speech, maintaining a calm and gentle nature, practicing honesty, and embracing humility. Association with the Holy Shrine. The concept of a holy shrine holds significance in every religion. The Kaaba, in Islam, is one such revered shrine. In a literal sense, attaining high moral character becomes the Kaaba for those who believe that visiting the shrine brings them closer to the divine. From a broader perspective, while all holy shrines deserve respect, the highest form of devotion lies in cultivating high moral character. Gurbani draws a parallel between visiting a holy shrine and attaining high moral virtues, emphasizing that the true shrine lies within. This teaching applies universally to all human beings, regardless of the name they use to refer to the divine, be it Allah, Ram, God, Lord, Almighty, Wahe Guru, Hari, Akal Purak, or any other. Even for those who do not believe in a higher power, the holiness is in morality and not anywhere outside. A person of high moral character would never defame, criticize, or belittle others or their belief systems. Such a person would not waste time engaging in negativity or bringing others down. Instead, they would focus on improving themselves, evolving internally, and dedicating their thoughts and actions toward the betterment of others, their community, and society at large. Performing external rituals such as fasting, Rosary, or offering prayers, ardars, puja, namaz, etc., alone does not guarantee entry into the inner heaven. When one cultivates virtuous behavior and attains high moral character, they discover the true holy shrine, the Kaaba, Harmandir, Mandir, temple, and all other sacred places, within themselves. In Gurbani, Kabir emphasizes,
रोजा तरह निवास गुजारे कलमा पिस्त ना होई स्तर काबा काट ही पीतर जे कर जाने कोई.
One may observe fasts and recite prayers, but that alone does not lead to paradise. The true Kaaba is within the heart, if only one realizes this truth. Association with spiritual guide or guru. Over the centuries, clergymen, prophets, saints, gurus have served as spiritual leaders across nearly every faith tradition. They have played vital roles in guiding individuals toward moral living and spiritual growth. At its core, spirituality is the art of uplifting the mind and guarding it against the pull of negativity. Our actions are shaped by the thoughts we entertain. When negative thoughts dominate, they often lead to immoral or ego-driven behavior. Conversely, when positive and elevating thoughts prevail, we act with compassion, integrity, and humility. Those entangled in negativity and ego often remain lost in that state. To rise above such ignorance, one must turn inward and embrace wisdom. Importantly, wisdom is not the property of any privileged class, gender, or spiritual elite. It is universal, present in every human being. Through self-reflection and inner inquiry, through observing life's experiences and contemplating deeply, one can access the divine wisdom already residing within. This wisdom unfolds naturally through practices like meditation, contemplation, and righteous living. Clergymen share valuable insights, but their words can only serve as pointers. True wisdom only becomes transformative when it is internalized, when it touches the heart through lived experience. Whether it comes from a person, a scripture, or the natural world, wisdom is not in the medium, it is in the realization it sparks. The outer source is merely a trigger. The real awakening occurs when inner wisdom is activated and lived. Yet, in the religious world, many become overly attached to these external sources. They worship the messenger and forget the message. Relying solely on outer guidance is like a person who cannot walk without a crutch. To become spiritually self-reliant, one must learn to uplift the mind through the wisdom already within, and reflect sincerely upon the self. Consider this: a person may use GPS, follow signs, or ask someone for directions. But no matter what the method, they still have to walk the path themselves to reach the destination. In the spiritual world, however, many become so attached to the one giving directions that they never begin the journey. This is what we often see in religious spaces, ashrams, saint houses, where people seek spirituality by clinging to spiritual leaders for life, without ever embarking on the true inner path toward realization. Gurbani emphasizes a direct, personal connection with the divine, without dependency on intermediaries. In Gurbani, the term guru refers not to a person, but to the enlightening wisdom, Shobad Guru, that dispels darkness. Similarly, the word saint points not to a religious figure, but to the noble thoughts and righteous ideas that uplift the mind. The term pir is not a title, but a state of being. When one's thoughts and actions are aligned with truth, one becomes their own guide, walking the path of inner peace, clarity, and divine understanding. Association with faith and belief systems. Followers often believe their own faith to be the best, or the only true path to salvation. Religious leaders may reinforce this idea, presenting their tradition as superior or divinely chosen. For many people with limited exposure to other beliefs, it is natural to assume that their own is the absolute truth. Throughout history, religious competition, conflict, and missionary activity have often reinforced this sense of exclusivity. With deep respect to all religious philosophies, Gurbani introduces the concept of a universal Dharam, a path grounded in righteous actions and divine virtues. This Dharam is not confined to a single author, tradition, or belief system. The composers of Gurbani came from diverse spiritual and social backgrounds. They used many different names for the divine, drawn from various faiths, and each of these names is offered equal reverence. However, this reverence holds meaning only when one embodies the virtues represented by each divine name. No single name is elevated above the others. All are described as wondrous and filled with greatness. Each name reflects a specific divine quality, and when a person lives in alignment with that virtue, they rise in spiritual stature. Gurbani does not advocate that any one faith is superior. Rather, it sees all human beings as children of the same divine. The divine virtues, truth, compassion, humility, contentment, are not reserved for one group. They are universal and available to all who choose to live by them. This is the beautiful and powerful message of oneness that Gurbani offers, a call to unite through divine virtues that reside within every human being. It promotes a harmonious way of life that bridges all divisions. At the time Gurbani was compiled, society was sharply divided by rigid class and caste structures. Yet the selections were made not based on the writer's social standing, but solely on the depth, truth, and universality of their message. We find in Gurbani the writings from diverse backgrounds, yet all share a single truth, that all is one. Their compositions speak not of separation, but of unity, love, and righteousness. The faith that Gurbani inspires is not blind belief in a particular doctrine. It is a living faith, faith in the divine message already present within the human heart. It teaches that karam, good actions, lead to spiritual unity, and that we must engage in honest self-reflection to overcome our inner vices. In this vision, contentment is the father, and good thinking is the mother. Together, they give birth to a virtuous and divine way of living here and now, in this life. Rituals related to prayer. In many religious traditions, prayer is accompanied by physical movements, standing, bowing, prostrating, or sitting, alongside the recitation of sacred verses. These rituals, often rich in detail and discipline, are taught by spiritual authorities and passed down through generations. While each faith may differ in its external form, the deeper intent behind all prayer remains the same: to connect with the divine. People pray for a wide range of reasons, shaped by their life roles and experiences. Business people may pray for success, workers for promotions, homemakers for peace and harmony, and students for academic achievement. The sick pray for healing, while others offer prayers on their behalf. Many seek forgiveness, hoping to avert misfortune or divine punishment. In such moments, prayer often becomes a way to fulfill desires or find relief from suffering. Frequently, prayer is directed outward, toward idols, scriptures, sacred images, or specific directions, based on the belief that God exists somewhere beyond, apart from the self. Gurbani offers a more intimate and inward perspective. It teaches that the divine is formless, not bound to any place, object, or direction, but instead is present everywhere, and most profoundly, within each of us.
सब किच कर में, बार नाई, बार टोले, सो परम पुलाई.
This means that everything is within home, within the heart and mind. Nothing is outside. One who searches outside is lost in illusion. Prayer, then, is not about outward expression alone. It becomes most meaningful when it arises from inner awareness. When we live in alignment with the virtues of our inner divine self, grounded in truth and contentment, then life itself becomes a prayer. To listen to the voice within and act upon its wisdom is to sit in the presence of the divine.
सत संतोख होवे अरदास, ता सुन सद बहाले पास.
When prayer is filled with truth and contentment, it is always heard, and the one who prays is drawn near to the divine. True prayer is not always about speaking. It is often about listening. Not always asking, but aligning. It is less about changing circumstances, and more about transforming consciousness. In times of difficulty, when ego and desire take over, and the senses lose clarity, prayer becomes a cry, not for material fulfillment, but for inner strength, direction, and peace. When the mind is calm and the heart is open, divine virtues arise naturally. In such a state, prayer becomes quiet surrender, not to demand outcomes, but to remain steady in truth, unshaken by temptation, and anchored in humility. The soul does not long for possessions, it longs for peace.
सबना तेरी आस प्रभ, सब जी तेरे तू रास, प्रभ तुदहो खाली को नहीं, दर गुरमुखानो शाबाश. बिख पोजल डुबदे कड ले, जन नानक की अरदास.
Everyone places their hope in you, O divine. None leaves your door empty-handed. This is Nanak's humble prayer: rescue those drowning in the treacherous world ocean. Prayer arises from humility. It is the quiet recognition that we are not in control, but we are always connected. We pray not only to receive blessings, but to recognize them, to be present with the divine, to walk in harmony with the divine will.
जिनी गुरमुख नाम सलाया, तिना सबको कहे शाबाश, तिनकी संगत दे प्रभ, मैं जाचिक की अरदास.
All praise those who glorify the divine name. Bless me with the company of divine virtues. This is the humble prayer of your seeker. To pray for others, especially the sick, the struggling, or the forgotten, is to open one's heart to compassion. Such prayer dissolves the ego and fills us with love. Ultimately, prayer is not about outcomes, it is about presence. It is about gratitude, surrender, and spiritual intimacy. Even when worldly success does not come, prayer reorients us. It brings our attention to what truly matters: inner peace, divine connection, and a life of purpose. True prayer does not seek to change the world around us, it seeks to transform the world within us. And once that shift takes place, success is no longer measured by what we gain, but by how awakened and aligned we have become. When our actions arise from inner awareness and divine connection, life itself becomes a living prayer. This is the essence of
Karam Nivaj.
a prayer not just spoken, but lived. Ritual of prayer beads or rosary. A rosary or prayer beads is often seen as a symbol, a continuous reminder of the divine, a way to keep one's mind engaged in remembrance and devotion. But beyond the physical beads lies a deeper truth. If one lives with awareness and follows divine wisdom at the right moment, responding with humility, love, and truth, then that very act becomes the true rosary. It is not about the repetition of words alone, but about aligning one's actions and decisions with the divine will. In this way, life itself becomes a prayer, and each moment a bead strung with conscious connection to the divine. Guru Nanak Sahib draws parallels between outward ritual practices and the virtues that truly uplift a person morally and spiritually. Let us return to the hymn that we listened to at the beginning of this chapter.
Mer Maseet, Sidak Musalla, Haq Halal Quran, Shram Sunnat, Sheel Roza, Ho Musalman, Karni Kaaba, Sach Peer, Kalma Karam Niwaz, Tashbih, Saat Tis Pavsi, Nanak Rakhe Laj.
If mercy becomes the place of worship, faith becomes the prayer mat, honest living becomes the holy scripture, a sense of shame for wrongdoing be the circumcision, self-control and restraint be the true fasting, high moral character be the pilgrimage, and truth be the guiding teacher, if good deeds form the foundation of faith, and actions flow from inner awareness and divine connection, then such a way of life is the true prayer. If this is religion, says Nanak, it is pleasing, and it preserves one's honor in the divine court. Another common ritual is holy dip, pilgrimage. A tirath, a holy place, is often found near rivers or flowing water. People go there with the hope that taking a dip in sacred waters will wash away their sins. It's a common belief that these physical acts can cleanse past wrongdoings. But the truth is much deeper. Every action, good or bad, starts in the mind. A dip in holy water might clean the body, but it doesn't clean the mind. The mind may still hold on to inner thieves like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. These can't be washed away by water. While the body may be cleaned, the ego often grows stronger. Some even take pride in saying, "I have bathed at 68 holy sites." But Gurbani points us to a deeper truth. Being kind to all living beings is greater than bathing at all 68 tiraths and doing charity.
68 Tirath Sagal Pun, Jiye Daya Parvan.
All the merits of the 68 holy places and charitable deeds are found in compassion for all beings. Those who conquer the evils of their mind are truly pure, even if they never visit a holy site. But if the mind is full of deceit, manipulation, and ego, even daily rituals won't help. It's like washing a bitter gourd. Its skin becomes clean, but its bitterness stays.
Navan chale tirthi, man khote tanchor. Ik pao lathi natya, due pa chadiyas hor. Bar toti tumdi, andar visnikor. Saad pale annatya, chor si chora chor.
External rituals like bathing at holy places are useless if one's mind remains impure and one's actions are dishonest. Just as a bitter fruit may look clean outside but is poisonous inside, so are people who appear religious outwardly but harbor corruption within. True purification comes not from water, but from bathing in divine love, living truthfully, and shedding duality and ego.
तीर्थ बरत अरदान कर, मन में तरे गुमान, नानक नेफल जापते हैं, ज्यों कुंचर स्नान.
People do outer acts like bathing, fasting, and giving to charity, but they still hold on to pride. Gurbani compares this to an elephant that bathes and then throws dust on itself. It makes the whole bath useless. Lust, lies, harsh words, jealousy, and selfishness remain untouched by water. These are not stains on the skin, they live in the mind and heart. So how do we truly become clean inside? Gurbani gives us a beautiful answer. Every divine quality, truth, compassion, kindness, humility, is like a drop in the vast ocean of morality. When we immerse ourselves in this ocean of virtues, transformation begins. A crow, known for its noise and restlessness, can become a graceful swan, calm, wise, and elegant. This is what happens when we bathe in godly qualities. The crow within us becomes a swan.
अमृतसर, सतगुर, सत्यवादी, जित नाते कौआ हंस होए, नानक तन तन वड्डे वड्डबागी, जिन गुरमत नाम हृदय मल तोए.
The true Amritsar is the Guru of truth. One who bathes there becomes a swan from a crow. O Nanak, blessed are those who through the Guru's wisdom wash the dirt from the heart with the name. Whether a person believes in God or not, every human has the potential for goodness. Qualities like love, honesty, and compassion are not tied to any one religion. They are part of our shared human nature. When we start living by these values, it is as if we have taken a sacred dip, not on the outside, but deep within. This is the path to Jivan Mukti, or Nirvana, freedom and peace while still alive. Just like water soaks the entire body during a bath, true cleansing happens when our thoughts, words, and actions are soaked in morality and higher values. This deep cleansing makes us more peaceful, loving, and able to live in harmony with others. This is the real pilgrimage, the true Tirath. It doesn't require a long journey, only the courage to look within and change. Bathe there, and cleanse the filth of the mind. Let us now look at some common superstitions. In many cultures, rituals and beliefs extend beyond religious doctrine into the realm of superstition. Practices often passed down through generations that attempt to attract good fortune or avoid misfortune. While they may carry cultural significance, they are often rooted in fear or social conditioning rather than spiritual truth. For example, in some East Asian communities, the number 4 is avoided because it sounds similar to the word for death in Mandarin. As a result, buildings may skip the 4th floor, and phone numbers, license plates, or house addresses without the number 4 often preferred, and even more expensive. Similarly, the number 13 is considered unlucky in many Western cultures and is often omitted from floor numbers and event planning. Belief in auspicious or inauspicious dates is also common. Some people consult horoscopes or astrologers to choose wedding dates, believing certain days bring luck or doom. These practices can become obsessive and overshadow the actual meaning or purpose behind the life events being celebrated. In Feng Shui, a traditional Chinese system for arranging space and objects, for example, there are strict rules to preserve energy flow. Mirrors should not face the bed, the front door should never align directly with the back door, and sweeping during Chinese New Year is avoided for fear of sweeping away good luck. Death and ghosts are sensitive subjects. In some traditions, it is considered bad luck to talk about death, especially around elders or pregnant women, as it is believed to invite misfortune. Similarly, there are taboos around death-related gifts or discussions. Certain gifts are believed to bring bad luck. For example, gifting clocks, which symbolize time running out, shoes, which may cause the recipient to walk away from you, or umbrellas, which signify separation, are all considered inauspicious in some cultures. Belief in fortune-telling, astrology, and lucky colors also influences daily decisions. For example, colors like pink, yellow, or red may be favored for weddings or celebrations, while darker tones are avoided. However, when such beliefs become rigid or superstitious, they can cloud one's judgment and reduce life's sacred moments to mere rituals of avoidance and fear. Gurbani gently but firmly challenges all such external dependencies. It reminds us that real clarity, strength, and guidance come not from rituals or superstitions, but from divine wisdom, inner discipline, and truthful living. Let us now continue to explore other common rituals with this deeper lens, seeking their purpose, examining their limitations, and returning always to the path of inner awareness and virtue. Death and the rituals of grief. Across cultures and religions, the death of parents is followed by deeply emotional and symbolic rituals. In South Asia, particularly in Hindu tradition, rites like Shraddha is performed to ensure the peaceful transition of the soul. Offerings of food, water, and symbolic items are made, often through priests, to assist the departed in the afterlife. In Chinese and East Asian traditions, ancestor veneration continues for generations. Families burn incense, offer meals, and conduct elaborate ceremonies, believing these actions nourish and honor the spirits of the deceased. In the West, funerals and memorial services serve as times for remembrance, prayer, and gathering. While these customs vary widely, they share a common trait. The focus is often on rituals after death, yet many neglect honoring, serving, or even spending time with their loved ones while they are alive. Gurbani exposes this contradiction with piercing clarity.
जीवत पितर न माने को मुए शरात कराई पितर भी बपुरे को क्यों पावे कौआ कुकर खाई.
He does not honor his ancestors while they are alive, but holds ritual feasts in their name after they have died. Tell me, how can his poor ancestors receive what the crows and dogs have eaten? Gurbani urges us to reflect. Are we truly expressing love and respect, or just performing rituals for social appearance or religious obligation? As per Gurbani, remembrance of the divine, naam, humility, service, seva, and moral living are far more meaningful than symbolic offerings. If we ignore our parents, exploit them, or fail to care for them during their lifetime, what use are the grand ceremonies after death? True honor lies not in posthumous rituals, but in daily respect, presence, and care. Moreover, these practices are not limited to South Asia. In China, ancestor worship is central to cultural identity. Families burn incense, paper money, and symbolic goods, believing the departed will receive these in the afterlife. The Qingming festival is observed annually, where graves are cleaned, offerings made, and prayers offered. True honor lies not in posthumous rituals, but in daily respect, presence, and care. Moreover, these practices are not limited to South Asia. In China, ancestor worship is central to cultural identity. Families burn incense, paper money, and symbolic goods, believing the departed will receive these in the afterlife. In Japan, Buddhist mourning rituals span 49 days, with the belief that the soul undergoes a transitional journey during this period. Offerings and prayers help guide the soul to peace. In the West, funeral customs emphasize remembrance and closure, with rituals such as wakes, memorial services, and annual visits to cemeteries. Despite cultural differences, these rituals reveal a shared human desire to honor the deceased and find meaning in loss. But Gurbani challenges us to shift our focus, to not wait until death to express love and care. It calls on us to live with awareness and compassion, now, for that is where true reverence lies. Chapter 17. Rosary. Mala. A rosary or mala is a string of beads used to keep track of prayers, often aiding in meditative exercises or spiritual recitation. It is believed that a rosary helps practitioners maintain focus and count repetitions during meditation or prayer. Bhagat Kabir says, with a ritualistic mark on the forehead, a rosary, mala, in hand, and religious attire. People believe these external displays make them true devotees of the divine. However, they mistake the Creator for a mere object of ritual. thinking they can attain divine favor through superficial acts rather than true devotion and inner transformation. They perceive the divine, Ram, as a mere toy, engaging in outward practices while failing to internalize divine virtues and align their hearts with truth. The verse of Bhagat Kabir Ji goes like this.
माथे तिलक हाथ माला बाना, लोगन राम खिलौना जाना.
In Gurbani, the verse that explains the mala goes like this.
हर हर अखर दुई ए माला, जपत जपत पए दीन दयाला.
Different religions prescribe different numbers of beads for a mala or rosary, to form a circular string of beads. At least 3 or 4 beads are required. However, the mala that Gurbani suggests consists of just 2 beads, both bearing the same name,
Har Har,
essentially representing only one, her, the divine. By internalizing the divine, even those who lack divinity become recipients of mercy. This emphasizes singular devotion, guiding us to focus solely on the one divine without distraction or division. Spirituality is not about ritualistic counting of beads, but about immersing oneself in divine remembrance and transforming one's inner self. Bhagat Kabir Ji criticizes the superficial use of prayer beads as mere outward display. He says,
कबीर जपनी काठ की, क्या दिखलावे लोए, हृदय राम न चेतहि ए जपनी क्या होए.
This means that true spirituality does not arise from external symbols, but from applying divine wisdom and manifesting virtuous actions. If one does not cultivate divine awareness in the heart, merely carrying a rosary holds no real value.
सालग्राम बिप पूज मनावूं, सुकृत तुलसी माला.
This verse means that even special beads, whether made of tulsi or rudraksha, add no value to one's attitude or behavior if the mind remains disconnected from the divine. Counting the number of times one chants virtuous names while failing to embody even one virtue renders the entire exercise fruitless. True devotion lies not in the repetition of words, but in the transformation of the heart. The divine is complete, unaffected by praise. Gurbani says,
जे सब मिलके आखण पाए, वड्डा न होवे काट न जाए.
If all living beings in the world come together and make an effort to praise the Creator's greatness, the Creator does not become any greater than the divine essence already is. Similarly, if no one offers praise, the Creator does not become any lesser. The divine is complete in itself, unaffected by praise or neglect. For the divine is not driven by a desire for glory but remains ever perfect and unchanging. True devotion lies in actions, not numbers. The Creator is not pleased by the mere repetition of a particular virtuous name a set number of times. Rather, the inner divine is pleased through the good actions one performs. True happiness and inner peace arise not from counting chants but from embodying divine virtues in daily life. Keeping track of the number of times one has praised the divine can lead the seeker into a transactional mindset, either seeking supernatural favors for something they lack, or fueling their ego by boasting about having repeated the divine name hundreds or thousands of times. Genuine devotion is not about numbers, it is about transforming the heart and living in alignment with divine wisdom.